cold at the touch, dead in the eyes, no signs of life no more. I put your love under the knife, leave me to die here all alone. No signs of life no more, no. A crying dove may never fly. Black and white. Yeah. Black and white. Oh, 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 oh. Just black and white. Black and white, just let me go. It's only right. For all I know, it's only matter. It's calico, it's black and white. Just let me go. It's only right. For all I know, it's only matter. It's calico, it's black and white. White, white, white. Black and white. Yeah. Black and white. Oh, 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 oh. Just black and white. Black and white.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to NXTGEN Racing on Monday nights. This is the MX-5 Cup, round one here at Silverstone National in Northamptonshire, England, the United Kingdom, 65 miles northwest of London, a track that was first built in 1948 and hosted the first ever Formula One Grand Prix. But today, it's hosting the first round of our MX-5 Cup in NXTGEN Racing. Welcome along to everyone watching, all NXTGEN fans from across the globe. We have Monday nights here for the MX-5s. Tuesday nights is the ACC, Assetto Corsa Competizione Leagues. Wednesday nights is the GT3 NXTGEN Leagues. And there are plenty of other leagues on offer from NXTGEN Racing. And all of which you can enter at nextgenracing.co.uk. Tonight, as we mentioned, here at Silverstone, my name's Alex Everett, your commentator for tonight. Alongside me, it's the Dream Team, the two commentators of NXTGEN Racing, myself, and I'm joined by Paul Walsh in the commentary booth. Paul, how are you tonight?
I'm doing fantastic, thank you, Alex. I'm very happy to be here with a great season opener in store. Well, at least we can expect it. If Silverstone produces anything, it is fantastic racing. And in the MX-5s as well, we're not quite in Formula One cars, like you were referring to earlier with the opening Formula One race, but indeed the MX-5s are going to be plenty of a handful for our drivers, are they not?
Absolutely. And the track of Silverstone National we normally see with the British touring cars, which is entertaining in its own right. But with these Mazda MX-5s on such a small, simple circuit, it does actually provide some of the greatest racing we've seen in British motorsport. Would you agree?
Oh, most definitely. With this circuit essentially having some very high-speed straights, but on top of that and its high-speed corners, some heavy braking zones as well. And I can imagine it is going to be a gamble. Will our drivers go for overtakes on the straight, only to get their comeuppance into the corners? Or will they do it the other way around? There's plenty of overtaking opportunities. And with there being three classes, I come to understand it, we're indeed going to see plenty of fighting, whether it be inter-class or within the class itself.
Exactly. And speaking of classes, we'll actually talk you through the format of how this championship is going to work for the next couple of months or so. So the races that we're going to see on each and every night of this MX-5 Cup series, we've got two 15-minute races to introduce the night, as well as 15 minutes of qualifying to precede the races. And then it will all tail off with a fifth race, a 25-minute feature race. There are three classes or categories, as some people like to call it, in this championship. As there are so many drivers, there are more championships, which means it's giving drivers from all ends of the grid an opportunity for a championship in some way or another. The pro category, which is often considered the drivers of higher attrition, pro drivers in real life, of course, including Bobby Thompson and Mikey Doble, who are back for this series. We also have the Pro-Am category, the middle category, as you might like it. Drivers who are not quite up to the capability of the pro drivers, let's just say, but they do put on a good show and they are increasing in capability. And we also have the AM category. These are guys you would probably consider beginners in the sim racing world. Some that might not necessarily have as good a hardware or as big an experience. But the AM category is for the drivers who aren't quite necessarily at the top with the pro drivers. So big opportunity for a lot of drivers from all across the grid. There are prizes on offer for the top three in each class. So 9 drivers from this series will walk away with a prize at the end of it all. It's a 12-round championship, and we'll run through the calendar very, very shortly, and all featuring on iconic tracks. And it will all end with a 2-hour endurance at the final round of the championship. So what is the category for the racing? Well, we have Silverstone up today on the 6th of December, and then next week we head over to Spain for the Catalonia circuit. Fairly recent introduction to iRacing is the circuit to Catalonia in Barcelona. That'll be in 1 week from today. 2 weeks from today will be round 3 of the championship at the Red Bull Ring Grand Prix circuit. And then for round 4 of the championship, we hop over the pond to the Gilles Villeneuve circuit, aka Montreal. Daytona Road course, we'll travel south to Florida for Daytona Road for round 5 of the championship. And then halfway across the road, we'll travel to Bathurst, aka Mount Panorama. So the big, gigantic mountain of Bathurst is going to introduce us for round 6 and see us out for the first half of the season. We're back in Europe for round 7 at Monza, the high-speed Formula 1 track will host round 7, followed by round 8 at Snetterton 300, one of the longest, more complicated, but exciting British tracks on the calendar. Round 9 at Zandvoort GP, for the 14th of February, and then it's over to Brazil for the Interlagos circuit. Slightly difficult final 2 rounds of the championship as well. Round 11 hosted at the streets of Long Beach. Fairly, well, I say it's recently introduced to iRacing, has been around for that long, but it is a fantastic circuit. And in these MX-5s, it's quite a surprise to the calendar, but it should be an interesting round. And round 12 of the championship, where else is it going to end? It's going to end at the Nürburgring VLN layout, a very long beast of a circuit. The Green Hell will host the final round of the championship. A 2-hour endurance will host that final round, and it will be double points for that round. So the usual amount of points that you score in the rounds prior, it will all be in times by 2 for that final round. So all at stake in that final week of the championship. What a list of tracks we have right there, Adam. It's sorry, Paul. Unreal. The legendary tracks on here. Quite a lot of new tracks from iRacing as well. Street circuits, long circuits, short circuits. It's quite the roster, isn't it?
Oh, most definitely. And I think there's something for everybody within the 12 rounds, whether it be a case that some drivers prefer high speed circuits, whereby it's more about being able to have that bravery to carry speed through the corners and then being very confident on the brakes. Alternatively, more tight and twisty circuits, I should say, or a combination. And I think particularly Long Beach being on the calendar is going to be a circuit which is going to outwit and outfox a good number of drivers, because it's effectively our equivalent of Formula One's gem of what is Monaco in terms of a street circuit. There's plenty of overtaking opportunities, unlike the real-world Monaco circuit, of course, and Long Beach being a real circuit which is dated back to a long time. But we can't get too hooked up on just the one American circuit. I also think Interlagos as well, a track which was renowned for its 3 very unique sectors, and as a result, that will pose a challenge in of its own. There is something for everyone here, and I think it's going to be the case that we're going to be seeing a variety of drivers really excel within different rounds. I mean, there'll be some who will be all-rounders and very strong, and particularly looking at pro class already, the likes of Bobby Thompson, for example, and Mikey Doble will be very strong throughout, I reckon. But then again, particularly within the AM and Pro-Am classes, I would imagine there's going to be some individuals coming into this series, particularly within the AMs, I should say, where they're going to have a lot of confidence at particular circuits, probably because they've used those circuits to get used to the platform of iRacing, indeed racing these MX-5s, and then they'll go to other circuits, and it will be essentially a major shock to the system in terms of they may never have raced it, and they may not even own the circuit until they've come to this series, and they've got to learn it within a limited period of time. And I'd say from experience as well, when you've got a high variety calendar such as that, you have to make one of two decisions. Do you focus on a particular rounds, or do you try and spread your practice across the different rounds over the coming weeks? So a major challenge for everybody involved.
Yeah, all very good points indeed. And I'm looking at that schedule as you mentioned it, and they're all extremely tricky circuits. There's quite a lot of very technical circuits, including Bathurst, Snetterton. Don't write off Snetterton. It's a very, very difficult track, and Long Beach and Nürburgring. So we're in for a tough season here. These drivers, should I say, are in for a very tough season. So it's going to be nothing but entertainment for us viewers here. Welcome along, whether you're watching on NXTGEN Racing on Facebook, or whether you're watching on Crest Autosport TV on YouTube and Twitch. Do give the channels a like, follow, share, or subscribe from wherever you are watching. It does help out the channels, it does help out the organisations in bringing you this great racing and great entertainment. So tonight, first round of the championship, and we'll reveal a couple of the drivers that we are seeing in the series. There's a lot of drivers from different series who've come together to race in this series. There's a lot of drivers from real life as well. To name one right off the bat, it is Mikey Doble. Mikey Doble is the reigning Legends Cup NXTGEN Racing champion. Twice, in fact. He won Season 1 and he won Season 2 last season. And he is second in the standings right from the word go. But right above him in the standings, not out on the track at the moment, is Bobby Thompson. We're going to see some fireworks this season from both of them, aren't we, Paul?
Oh, most definitely. If the Legends was anything to go by, and well, Thompson known for being a very fiery driver and in the real world, of course, of racing as part of the Mini Clibbons series. I had the pleasure of watching him take to the Brands Hatch circuit earlier on this year in the what was the final round of the series, and my goodness, was he absolutely on the offense around the circuit. And indeed, Mikey as well, very, very fast driver, and he'll be looking to retain his crown. But let's not count out some of the drivers further down in the other classes as well.
Yeah, absolutely. One of them we were just looking at was Jamie Durian. We are seeing her coming together, coming out the pits right from the word go. Not a very good start for some drivers, but we are looking at Jamie Dory right now. Well, we were looking at Jamie Dory, but yeah, this is the man we have, with his rather flattering picture on the bottom left there. This is the man we have to thank for this series. Jamie Dury of NXTGEN Racing hosting this series, along with other admins and hosts in NXTGEN Racing, hosting many a series across the week on many different platforms and consoles. Jamie Dury, big round of applause from everyone for him for putting on this great series, of which we've got more than 30 cars on the grid for this race tonight. So yeah, big round of applause for him as he comes around Luffield. In fact, we're going to do an onboard lap with Jamie Dury right now. He's going to show us around this first track of the evening. So Paul Walsh, I'm going to hand over to you to give us a tour of the Silverstone National Circuit.
Alrighty then, we'll charging across that timeline to go on to his first flying lap and making his way into turn 1, known as Cop's Corner here. Looking to break in nice and only attack that apex, a bit too high in the apex curve then. Dury having to fight the car as it balances across the curb, but upon exit, completely foot to the floor now, building it up to the highest possible speed here before charging into the left-hand kink at turn 2, into Maggots Bend at turn 3 right now. And you'll see, rather than going straight on here, we instead take it as a hairpin because of the National Circuit, and as he emerges from turn 3, following the car ahead of him and charging out of the corner down Aintree now and heading onto the Wellington Straight. And as he makes his way down the long straight, of course named after the British bomber that served in World War II, he comes into the heavy braking zone very shortly, looking for his brake marker, that 50-metre border, and trailing into left-hander of Brooklands here, trying to go for the late apex there. And as he emerges, hanging tight to the right-hander of what is a Luffield Bend, and as he makes his way on through here, it's a balancing act on the throttle, getting ready to stamp the throttle down when he emerges from the corner, and he does so indeed using the full width of the circuit, and now flying through to the right-hand here to complete lap, turn at number 6 through Woodcock Corner here, and completing the lap. A very smooth lap there, bar turn 1, but Jamie Dury is showing us that he's right out there from the start, and he is only 2.5 tenths off of Horn so far.
And Lee Horn actually getting a big draft from Jamie Dury on that lap. But I feel like I want to do another onboard lap then, because it just flown by so quickly. Quite a short track here at Silverstone National. I believe it's one of the shortest tracks on the calendar. You could probably throw in Long Beach as another short track on the calendar, but yeah, that just seemed to fly by for me. Top of the standings at the moment though, Bobby Thompson. There's a lot of cars.
Goodness me.
That's a pretty big incident there, just coming out of Cop's Corner, and a lot of drivers will have to reset to the pits for qualifying. Luckily you can, for qualifying, reset to the pits, get a brand new car, which you don't really have the luxury of in real life, but this is iRacing, it's virtual racing. Yes, and as we were mentioning, Bobby Thompson, top of the standings. BT Motorsport with Essex and Kent Motorsports. Coming down towards Brooklands, has tried to establish himself in a crowd so he can get a very good draft, and this is something we're probably going to see quite a lot in this relatively short qualifying session, Paul, is a lot of people fighting for track position to get the all-effective draft here.
Oh, most definitely, Alex. And I think that's why the biggest challenges with regards to the Silverstone circuit, at least the national layout, is using that draft to your advantage. And we saw that with Lee Horn, the fact that being in the draft of Jamie Dury, where, to be fair, Jamie Dury's lap, minus a slight altercation with the apex curve at turn 1, was pretty much the perfect lap. All right, it may not have been the fastest, but it was right spot on. And Lee Horn gaining, I would say, at least 1.5, if not 2 tenths of a second by running that draft. And that's the challenge you face here, is the fact that when you are out in that qualifying session, there's going to be a number of drivers here who want to qualify and clear it. I'll tell you from personal sim racing experience, I'm one of those people who likes to qualify for clean air lap, but you can see the pack of drivers here trying to form into draft packs, and really you want to be behind, say, 2 cars and running at a good pace to them, because down the Wellington Straight in particular, having that double draft effect, that double toe, is going to gain you so much time. But of course it comes with the warning, the hazard, which is that if the driver in front of you gets it wrong on their lap and they end up bungling the braking point or instead going deep, then you could end up running into the back of them and breaking your own lap into pieces, and at that point you've got to go again. And you also got to be aware of the fact that if you do end up taking a driver out and qualifying, the stewards won't be too happy and maybe wagging their fingers at you, if not throwing some penalties in post-race.
Oh, don't talk to me after the weekend we've just had with penalties. We won't go into that today, ladies and gentlemen. I fancy a day off from that. But we are just looking at Lee Holmes. He's now down to 2nd place as Bobby Thompson has just taken over the top spot there. Quite a distance ahead of Lee Holmes. Nearly quarter of a second quicker and into the 1 minute 4s for Bobby Thompson. What he has been doing over the past few seasons in the Legends Cup, he might well be doing again in this Mazda MX-5 Cup. And if I remember rightly, Bobby Thompson was pushing quite hard to get the MX-5s into this next season of Next Gen Mondays, and I can see why right now.
Oh, definitely. And the MX-5, the Japanese machine, of course, renowned for its ability to be a fantastic track day car. And many of those of you who are inclined to watch sim races on YouTube are indeed real-world track day drivers, such as you'll know the name, Jimmy Broadbent. He has his own track day MX-5 and indeed takes that around, has done a number of videos. And the MX-5, one of those cars, a very fun car to drive. It's been popular throughout the ages, whether it be from the late 90s going into the early 2000s or even to today. It is the car which just keeps on giving for Mazda in terms of their offers, but in terms it keeps on giving to the driver as well. And I think the reason why Bobby Thompson, indeed a number of drivers, would have been absolutely jumping up and down when they heard that it was going to be MX-5s this season is because it's a car that is so enjoyable to drive. Front engine, rear wheel drive, you've got a rather nice punchy little engine in the front, but also as you can see here, we've got an open top, we've got the full roll cage in the car. These cars are made to be played with, they're made to be thrown around the circuit. On iRacing, of course, once you don't have that real world G-force effect, unless you've got a very powerful rig, of course, at the same time it's one of those situations whereby this is a car that a lot of people can relate to when they're driving it on the simulator, and so you can fry it about, you can have fun with it. But of course it does come with its hazards, which is it doesn't have the strongest of brakes compared to say a GT3 car, but once you master those brakes it does feel nice. You just chuck it into the corners and feel the front end being pulled round and the rear coming around with it.
Yeah, a great description actually of these cars, and something that's quite important with these MX-5s, they're hugely popular cars, but that's because they're one of the first cars, in fact they are the first cars you'll probably drive when you first get iRacing as a rookie. Getting yourself through the rookie licenses up to D, C, B and A, and eventually, if you're lucky, Pro license. Getting out of the rookie phase license means you've got to drive these cars, and it's quite a well, it's quite the introduction to iRacing, that's for certain, for all the reasons that Paul has just given us. Actually, you can throw these cars about quite a bit, but it does take a little bit of practice, a little bit of time, a little bit of precision to get it absolutely right in these cars, and we're seeing the masters of them here. There's a lot of drivers from a lot of other series as well. I remember quite a lot of drivers here from the old British Sim Racers Championship that's still going on Tuesday nights. But Pete Newman was one of the drivers I remember, and he's second in the standings right now. Drives for Pure Sims, which I believe is a company that Ash Sutton, British Touring Car Champion, is highly associated with. So Pete Newman's definitely got some resources behind him following that livery as he takes to the pits to presumably get more tyres, maybe adjust the fuel a little bit in the car, maybe even a setup adjustment here and there. But second in the standings for him. An old friend of mine, Adam McNally, third in the standings right now. Not too far from Pete Newman, in fact, and it is getting very close behind Bobby Thompson. Just half a second between himself and Pete Newman for now.
I've got to ask you a question, Alex. In terms of qualifying, in your opinion, where do you want to qualify? Do you want to be the guy on pole, or do you want to be a couple of places back and capitalise going into the run for turns 2 to 3? Because Thompson, to be fair, he's going to be on pole by the looks of things so far, if it's to end as it is. But is he going to be leading come the end of the first lap?
Very, very good question. And in fact, I cast my mind back to when we were racing the Legends on this track. The order shifted so much on every single lap of the race. So I can only predict that, yeah, it's not. Bobby Thompson might not necessarily be leading at the end of lap 1, but it's Bobby Thompson, so he might well be. Really, I couldn't tell you. But to answer the other question, the racer that I am, and the racer that a lot of us are, I'd rather be at the front. If you're pole position, you intend to stay at the front and to win the race. Of course you want that. But at the same time, I do love getting through the pack when and where I can, of course. There's nothing quite like a reverse grid, which we are seeing tonight, where you can get yourself through the pack, get a lot of places gained, that forever forward standings award that this series is going to associate itself with later down the line. But we saw a big avoidance there. Car going slow to the side there. Couldn't quite work out who that was, but everyone's swerving to avoid, including David Whitehouse, who's got a rather unconventional livery on his car, but each to their own. I think that's is that the duck from the Duck song on YouTube?
I think so, and I was going to say, with him having to take that evasive action, it was a case that I think he was showing us, David Whitehouse, just a big pair of grapes he does have to take that evasive action at such a high speed, if you don't mind the pun. As we can see, it's one of those situations where I think he looks as though, right now, he is our provisional pole sitter within, is that the Pro-Am class in the Blues?
AM class in the light blue, and that's something, yes, thank you, you teed me up quite well there, Paul. In the standings, you can see the positions on the left, the different colours associate the different classes that these drivers are in. Black numbers are the Pro category drivers, orange numbers are the Pro AM drivers, and AM category are the blue numbered drivers. So David Whitehouse is top of the AM category at the moment, 18th overall, first in category, and in the Pro Am category is Lewis Kent, top of the standings, in 11th overall. So nice impressive times from the Pro Am drivers in the top half of the field as well. So we'll see how that materialises as we go on. We're nearing the final phases of qualifying here. It's still Bobby Thompson at the top, Pete Newman second, and Adam Nally third. It only takes a good draft from one driver and a good couple of corners from one driver to get themselves to the top of this list, with Silverstone being quite the track for that.
Oh, most definitely. And now I think particularly when we look at, say, the Pro-Am drivers here, so Kent and Thompson, so that's Aaron Thompson in P14, Class P2. One of the things now for these guys, the challenge really is they want to try and maintain those positions in qualifying, because provisionally right now, you can imagine they'll be locking out the 7th row and they will have Douglas between them and their pursuers within class. And this is what we've seen in a number of other classes run by NXTGEN, particularly, oh goodness me, and Thompson, they're getting it very wrong into turn 3. And as a result, causing a bit of a bunch up there with car number 27, and that is Smith trying to find his way on through. Well, Smith will be compromised and not too happy about that one. But to be fair, that's what we were talking about earlier. If you get too close to the guy in front of you and he makes a mistake or just doesn't carry as much speed or the line into the corner, you'll get hit by that in terms of your overall lap time. But what I was going to say is Ken and Thompson right now will want to ride this wave of having a pro between them and their Pro-Am peers, because they can use Douglas as a potential buffer when we get underway with race number 1. Now, how that will play out, of course, because Wayne Douglas will want to come on through the field as quickly as possible and try and get past them. But it's one of those tricky ones, because for our viewers out there, some of you may be wondering right now, are the points done overall, or are they done within class? Well, I'll defer to you, Alex. I believe they're done in class.
They are done in class indeed. So where you finish in your category is where you'll score points-wise. So as much as these drivers will want to get in and get their elbows out and battle with a lot of the drivers in other categories, it will not be their fight to fight with. They'll need to score points based on their category, so they need to be keeping on drivers in their categories, of which not many of them are going to be familiar with one another just yet. It will take a few rounds for them to get used to who they're racing in each category. And of course, upon the completion of the results tonight, a lot of drivers will establish their categories. Wayne Douglas, just as we mentioned him, he's quite a late entry into the series. Even though he was part of the Legends Cup last season, quite a late entrant into this series, he hasn't actually got a category. Although, judging by the times right here, Pro-Am might be a very good placement for him right now. So we could just go on the assumption he's a Pro-Am driver tonight. But I digress.
We could do indeed, and with that in mind, that really goes to show you right now that David Whitehouse and Steve Thompson, the two AM drivers there, P21 and P22, really doing a good job in qualifying and putting themselves right in amongst the Pro-Ams here. I do think for them right now, they might be having a little bit of a rivalry kicking off quite early, but as you were saying as well, Alex, tonight is really about, for a lot of our drivers who may not be used to racing each other or racing in these cars against each other, I think there's going to be quite a few elbows out tonight as we see Whitehouse getting it almost very wrong there and almost tapping the back of a car that was already wayward going into turn number 3. But now it is, I think, one of the cases that gloves are starting to come off as qualifying now takes a much more critical and serious tone with less than a minute ago.
Yes, and we were just watching Deegan Fairclough, who was another driver from our Legends Cup last season, won a few races here and there. He is running slow on the side here. He's running out of time to get to the end of this lap, but he will be determined to get a good lap in to finish this off. And there's going to be a couple of drivers filtering towards the top of the standings, including Ollie Peters. He was 3rd place in Season 1 of the Legends Cup some months ago, and he has just burst into the top 3 and is first at the Pro-Am category right now, just burst miles ahead of Lewis Kent, and it's a couple of tenths, in fact, ahead. So a real good time right at the dying phases of qualifying here.
Oh, indeed. It does look as though the Crest Autosport driver has picked it right, with the rubber being down the circuit and being able to use the cars in front of him as the checker flag is out on qualifying right now. Are there going to be any last-minute gambles from drivers or any last-minute surges up the field? Well, there's Delmont. He's just moved into P10. Adam Delmont with what was there, I believe, quite a strong lap, a 105.3. And, well, anybody else for any more is the big question, or is that going to be the end of the standings?
There's quite a few drivers still out on laps at the moment, including Nick Clibbons. He's probably the one highest up the standings who's still got a lap to complete here. 5th place in the standings. This is the last opportunity, but you've got to admit, Nick hasn't really got much help in front, i.e. draft, and runs a little bit wide at Brookland. Tried to recover it with a late apex, but I think that might have been it. That might have compromised the lap. We'll stick with Nick to see if anything materialised from this, but a lot of drivers are greying out on our standard. He's coming in. Yes, he is. But the other drivers behind carry on. Maybe he was helping out his teammates, his 88 Tech teammates of Lee Holmes. Let's see what Lee gets up to on this lap. 6th. And it looks like he stayed 6th for the time being. But I think that's most drivers done and dusted with qualifying. And we can safely say Bobby Thompson, top of the standings yet again. And I'm pretty sure he did exactly the same last season in the Legends Cup, which was at this track for round 1 of the season then. So go as he starts as he means to go on.
Well, most definitely, and a quick special mention to James Clark, who, as the lap times were coming down right at the end there, managed to put in what was a 105.4 literally on his final lap that moved him all the way up to P12 overall and P2 in class. Clark leaving it very late. Ollie Peters has taken that pole position in Prime, but still Clark moving up there and putting himself ahead of Kent and Thompson.
Absolutely, and here is the grid for the opening race of the night in the MX-5 Cup. We're going straight into it right from the word go. Bobby Thompson lines it up on pole position with Pete Newman alongside in 2nd. Adam McNally takes 3rd from Deegan Fairclough in 4th position. Nick Clibbons in 5th, followed by Lee Holmes in 6th. Mikey Doble takes 7th from Sam Smith in 8th. Ollie Peters 9th with Adam Delmont in 10th. Jamie Dory, our league host, is 11th from James Clark in 12th. Ben Bennyworth in 13th from Craig Cockrell in 14th. On the 8th row is Lewis Kent and Aaron Thompson, with Wayne Douglas and Lee Horn on the 9th row. 10th row is taken up by Glenn Humberson and Jeff Perkis. First of the AM category drivers, David Whitehouse is in 21st with AM Championship rival Steve Thompson in 22nd, Mark Oliver 23rd with Paul Scott in 24th, Nigel Stock in 25th with John Burnham in 26th, Simon Robson in 27th with Mark Smith in 28th, Dustin Lamb in 29th, Liam Tack 30th, 31st is Liam Silkstone, and Tom Delaney rounds off the back of the grid in 32nd. A huge grid here as we begin our journey, a 12-round journey of the MX-5 Cup, hosted by NXTGEN Racing. This is round 1 at Silverstone. My name is Alex Everett of Crest Autosport, and of TX141, Paul Walsh alongside me. Welcome along to this opening round of the season.
Indeed, as our drivers are waiting to get ready with what I believe is a standing start.
Absolutely is. So the drivers, they've got to set their clutches up to get the best start that they can, lifting off the clutch pedal and onto the throttle pedal, getting the best start they can. And here we go. The lights are about to turn red, and we're about to go for this first race of the night here at Silverstone.
That's lights out and away we go for the season opener. It looks like Thompson getting a very strong start off the line there and immediately pulling over before going back onto the racing line. But looking back there, it looks like Fairclough's not had the best of starts by comparison.
In 4th place at the moment, dropping back a little bit, but Bobby Thompson, a blistering start at the beginning of the race here, stretches away a little bit from Pete Newman, but there's a long straight to go down after this corner here, so let's see if the drivers make it through safe and sound. There's a couple of bumps and barges in the middle there. Number 47 car has turned around. That's Adam McNally, spins round coming out of Maggots there onto the Wellington straight, and there's a car off wide in the background as well. I think that's Steve Thompson. Yes, it is Steve Thompson, who started quite high up, and I think he's reset to the pits already. So a bad start to his race.
It was a difficult start, but we always expected some sparks to fly on the opening lap, and particularly as they make their way through turn number 5 here and head around to complete the lap right now. We can see that Deegan Fairclough trying to hold off right now, fast charging Clibbons behind him, and Clibbons really hounding the back of Fairclough as they make their way through the final corner here to complete the opening lap in this 15-minute race. And as they come across that timeline, it's looking as though Clibbons is going to be looking for the move here, but does he really want to go into turn 1? No, he's going to patiently wait for it, and you can see a little bit early on the brakes is behind them. We've got 2x2 going into into the opening corner here, and it looks as though Ollie Peters losing out slightly versus Smith, but I think he's banking on the fact that with Durian Delmont battling behind, that Peters will be able to then get the move on Smith. But it looks like Dory's coming up the inside. He's going for a double here, and he looks to the inside of turn number 3. He's going to make Peters have to hold all the way around the outside, which will give Peters the better run in terms of distance. But Dory getting his nose in there, and now they go down to the Wellington straight here into the left hand that they come. I think Peters is going to have this one, but you can see behind Delmont giving him a little tap on the back end here, trying to push him along a little bit, trying to say, can you politely get a move on and get the move back as they come into the final sequence of corners here. It's back and forth between these two, and neither one of them wanting to give way. But I think Dory finds himself out of position now as Delmont really starts to eke that pressure on. But again, now it does look as though Peters having a poor run out of turn number 5, and into 6 they come here. And well, you can see already the upper part of the field is breaking away with the fact that it's Peters who's starting to form the second pack of drivers.
Absolutely brilliant battling from these, and it looked initially like a great move on an undercut from Jamie Dory at the inside of Ollie Peters coming out of Cops on the previous lap. But as we see so many times with Silverstone National, side-by-side action is rather inevitable as we see Adam Delmont put it up the inside of Jamie Dory going into Maggots. He takes the inside line, riding along the curb, trying to get the best run out of the corner, but it's still side by side between the two drivers. Jamie Dory's front wheels alongside his rear wheels, and he's got a better run coming out the corner as he had the outside line. Still side by side for Jamie Dory. It's been more than 2 laps where he's been side by side with someone. He has the inside for Brooklands, the better line, the line that Ollie Peters had on him on the previous lap. But it's a good run from Adam Delmont round the outside, running a little bit wide at Brooklands, but now the inside at Luffield, and that might allow Ben Bennyworth in the 96 car behind to sneak through. And we've got a car slow on the side there. That is the number 21 car of Glenn Humberston, running slow on the side there, more than a lap down, so he's just letting by the traffic to stay out of trouble. But still side by side between these two, and eventually we've got to look at other drivers, including Pete Newman and Bobby Thompson. Move from Pete Newman into the lead. Thompson tries to get the undercut and might have the inside for Maggots. The next corner is being pushed along by Deegan Fairclough as well.
But he's going to have to do it very late on the brakes here. And to be fair, Fairclough's got to back off early, and he's trying to make it 2 for 1 special into turn number 3. And it looks like Fairclough here is going to actually have a really nice exit, as we can see that Thompson and Newman both being pushed onto that wide line here. Particularly, I think Thompson just carrying too much body roll in the car, and as they make their way down, you can see how Newman does not want to be caught by Fairclough right now. And this is causing the guys behind to bunch up, as I believe that's Doble and Holmes battling as they all come in. And this is the lead pack. And you have to imagine that's 7 drivers in the space of, what, less than a second, all squabbling over positions for a potential win in this race as they make their way through turn number 5 once again. But Thompson back into the lead as Newman and Fairclough side by side here. But this goes to show these MX-5s can be run side by side through most of the corners, but for every corner they go side by side, you can see how the pack bunches up. And that's the problem here with regards to this side by side pattern, because you can see Thompson already has eked out a 0.3 of a second gap coming out of 6 into turn 1. They go again, but the more fighting they do, the worse that deficit will get as they come through turn 1 once again. And we can see just a bit further back here, Smith and Holmes going side by side as they come charging up towards 3. Who's going to take it? I think Doble's also getting into the mix here, trying to have to go defensive here versus Holmes, as Holmes is going to try and go round the outside into 3, and Clibbons trying to do the same here versus Newman. My goodness, it is erupting early now that they've all got themselves up to temperature.
Oh, yes, it is indeed. And Pete Newman, although it was a brilliant move to try and take the lead just over a lap ago, he's now dropped to 3rd and dropping time back from the leaders. That's how detrimental it can be battling with other drivers. And you've got to pick your moments for these overtakes, and you've got to pick them well, and you've got to drive desperately hard through these corners to hang on to these positions and gain these positions. As we come through Luffield, Deegan Fairclough up 2 places to 2nd place at the moment, and he is not wasting any time to try and catch up with Bobby Thompson to take the top spot here. Deegan Fairclough was a race winner last season, remember, in the Legends Cup. I remember he won races at Alton Park last season in brilliant fashion as well. Takes a very late entry into Cop's corner. It seemed that Bobby Thompson was quicker through the corner there, and now Deegan is under trouble from Newman.
Oh, and he's pushed Newman a little bit wide there. Newman trying to find some space on the inside. He knows if he can get the nose of that Mazda down the inside through 2 and into 3, it's a situation where Newman can go with the move. And he's gone deep, and there's contact between the 2 of them. And Fairclough is sent off for the runoff area, but he does rejoin. But he's lost a lot of places here. I think there's a bit of nip and tuck between the 2 of them, but this is going to bring even more drivers into the mix. So you see the pack behind it all coming in now. Deegan on the offensive versus Holmes. They come up into turn number 4. But I think at this point, it's about just trying to calm down down and get back into this race, because we have still got over half the race distance to go as Clibbons now looks for that move on what is, well, he is trying to go through versus Doble here, and we can see that Fairclough all out of position. I think the damage to the car may be upsetting him a little bit, or he just not got his head down. He's just dropped all the way to P8, and now it's going to be almost 3 wide in the final quarter, heading on to another lap, but they calm it down to an extent here that everybody trying to make ground as time presses on here. We head into the 7th minute of into the 8th minute of the race. Very shortly, we've got a car running very wide there, and that is, well, I believe that's Lee Holmes just simply drifted wide. I'm not sure if there was contact there, but now the elbows are coming out. I think everyone's now a bit comfortable racing amongst one another, and I thought we were going to see everyone calm down, but it looks like they're all starting to up the ante, as it does look as though Ollie Peters here trying to hold position the 1-2-1 car, and he's bunching Delmont and Fairclough back up, and Fairclough coming back with a vengeance already versus Delmont as they make their way out of turn 3.
Oh, this is fantastic racing from anyone, and the biggest movers in this top part of the field at the moment. Mikey Doble is up to 3rd place, 4 places gained, and Ollie Peters, apparently in the Pro-Am category, is up to 5th place overall. First in his category as he's battling with Adam Delmont here. He still has the inside for Luffield, which is the better line, but Deegan Fairclough, as we were mentioning just a moment ago, pushing Ollie Peters through Luffield here. He just one little bit of loss of momentum with the contact with Pete Newman has dropped him back a few places, but it's still erupting for the top 2, for the 2nd spot on the grid here. Nick Clibbons moves it ahead of Mikey Doble on the inside, heading towards Cops Corner. All these cars
come on through. My goodness, they're trying to navigate the order here. I mean, Thompson's just been allowed to run away with this. He's 1.7 seconds up the road. I think he's laughing to himself, but look at the mass here in terms of how many wide is that? That's about 3 wide coming into 2 wide here. I mean, they're trying to replicate Noah's Ark, 2x2, hurrah, hurrah. They go through turn 3, and it's anyone's guess who's going to come out the head of this pack after each lap.
It's so close as well between Deegan Fairclough and Pete Newman again. Might have been a bit of revenge there from Fairclough as Pete Newman loses a lot of momentum. It's 3 wide down the straight here, but it looks like Sam Smith and Adam Delmont are squeezing ahead of Pete Newman. As round the outside of Pete Newman goes Jamie Dury, but has outbroke himself and isn't able to get it, just keep it alongside. Through Luffield we go. This is from 2nd to 9th place we are watching here. Big battling from these drivers, and it's not going to end anytime soon. Is it going to end in tears for one of them soon? I hope not. Let's see if we can keep this going.
There's contact between Clibbons and what looks to be Fairclough. Then Fairclough definitely not happy. He's going very defensive into 1 already. He does not want this pack coming through again. He knows he should be in the battle for the podium, and he wants that place. He is doing anything he can within limits here to prevent other drivers from coming on through. And I think what he's also trying to get a message through to both Clibbons and Doble is, look, we need to settle down and break away, because there's such a pack behind these guys. I mean, as they come into turn 3 again, in the single camera shot there, we're looking at 12 plus cars here, all contesting P2.
Yes, I think it stretches down to as far as Aaron Thompson. It is so even further than that. In fact, I think it stretches to 14th now technically, as Bobby Thompson is just stretching away. He's nearly got a 2-second lead. He must be laughing looking in his mirrors right now, seeing all this unfold behind him. But Mikey Doble squeezes it back into 2nd place, and he's actually breaking away from Nick Clibbons here. Good lap indeed from Mikey Doble to get into 2nd place and break away here. This is a big opportunity for him, as Deegan Fairclough and Nick Clibbons are still battling side by side as they go through Woodcote, and it's going to be side by side again going into Cops Corner. It spaces out a little bit between the few packs here. Into Cops Corner we go. Clibbons versus Fairclough.
As they make their way through the corner here, it does look as though Clibbons running a little bit wide there, but you can see how the 2 going side by side has bunched the field back up again, and now we've got Smith trying to get into the mix here, and Smith is all over the back of Fairclough, and I do believe Smith and Clibbons are teammates here, so they might try and do something together to work this through, but you can see Peters as well now trying to snake his way on the inside as Clibbons goes a bit wide there, keeps the car together, but I think Clibbons really driving on the limit right now to try and get to the head of this pack as they come charging down the Wellington Straight once again, but you see Clibbons now side by side with his teammate here, and I do wonder whether the team principal is going to be on the radio say, well, it's okay guys, just don't take one another out, as they make their way through turn 4 into 5 here. But you can see as they try to settle for position how Peters now tries to get his nose in on Smith as they make their way through, but he can't this time as they come on through the turn number 5 and up towards 6. They come charging through the right-hander, and as they head through the turn 6 and complete another lap, the side-by-side situations here, as we can see Jamie Durian as well in that side-by-side battle with Holmes here, and they come across that timeline. 4 minutes to go now, and I think the fights are going to be getting even more intense as they go into the last couple of laps.
Absolutely, it's very close between Jamie Durian and Lee Holmes there. Lee Holmes had to evade and he did very well to do so, but he might be compromising a position here to Ben Bennyworth, but it's Jamie Durian's running very slow on the side here. He might have got himself a slowdown penalty. He now drops to 13th overall, 8th in category, and there's a lot of drivers mixed match in categories here. There's a couple of drivers non-categorised as well, so it's quite hard to judge who's at the top category, particularly Ollie Peters, as I fear after tonight he might well be promoted to pro category. The categories of these drivers can change throughout the season if the admins and hosts do feel the need to, so Ollie Peters is overselling himself a little bit at the moment.
Indeed, but speaking of selling it right now, Delmont and Newman battling for P7 here. Pete Newman on the outside there on the exit of turn 5 and really trying to hold the outside line. But you can see Delmont coming back, and these two, I've been watching them in the background. They have constantly been taking most of these corners side by side for the last 2 to 3 laps, and they're showing one another a great amount of racing respect here. But at the same time, you can see the battling that they're doing is costing them the ability to stay with the guys up front, as behind Bennyworth and Clark are also, well, sorry, Douglas and Bennyworth and Clark, the three of them are coming together, and now with Douglas going a little bit wide there, I think it's going to be the case that we're going to be seeing Holmes and Dory come back into this battle for what is effectively P9 when all is said and done at the end of the day. They almost go 3 wide there into turn 3. You can see Clark just trying to keep it as tight as he possibly can here to chase after Douglas. He will not want Bennyworth and Holmes getting into this mix, as the 88 tech driver Lee Holmes now, I think, smells blood in the water and will try to go for a top 10 finish come the end of this. But this is very tight stuff. We're talking about the battle earlier on for P2. It's broken open a little bit now as we look back to Delmont and also what is there Newman, and these two I think have found themselves in order. It's meanwhile Smith and what looks to be there, I think that is Clibbons just ahead of him as well. Those two have settled down a little bit, and I think it's now Peters who is the pursuer.
Absolutely. Still battling amongst all these drivers with about 2 laps to go in this race, and I will refer your attention to the top 2 here, Mikey Doble and Bobby Thompson. Mikey Doble is the fastest lap holder of this race, of the only driver in the field bar Adam McNally, who has set a 1:04 lap, and he is gaining on Bobby Thompson, but is it enough? There's only 1.5 minutes, which is probably about 2 laps to go in this race, as he is getting a little bit of company from Deegan Fairclough, who's had a good run of few laps here, broken away from Sam Smith back there, and he has broken it up into 3rd place and catching up with Mikey Doble, approaching this ever important final lap of the race.
Indeed, and whilst we're looking up towards the leaders in the rear of the picture, Clibbons was going side by side with what was Ollie Peters, and Peters really coming on strong through turns 1 through to 3 and trying to send it into 3. It didn't quite work out. It's caused Clibbons to fall off the back of his teammate, and Smith now trying to make the breakaway. But I think what Smith's trying to do here, he's trying to offer the toe to his teammate as they emerge from the corners. In fact, Smith getting it a bit wrong coming out of turn 5 there and losing a lot of momentum, and now it's going to be the case that Clibbons is going to come through on the inside there. I think these two are going to trip over one another as they make their way into 1. They go on to the final lap here, and as the white flag's going to be coming out, it's a situation right now where I think these two have got to try and make their cars as wide as possible in order to prevent the wave of Peters, Newman and Delmont coming through. But Smith goes wide there. I do think at this point it's going to be Peters who's going to try and look for it into turn number 3. Is he going to go for it on the brakes and go for a double move here? He's looking for it, but you can see trying to go around the outside, I believe. Oh, goodness me, and it's full-way contact there as Peters and Newman, and also what appears to be, I think that was, my goodness, that was not Holmes. I'm trying to figure out who that was involved in all that contact. That, well, it looked to be what was Clibbons involved in the contact as well, and it's all gone horribly wrong for them. But I believe looking up to the front, Thompson's about to cross the line. Yes,
a brilliant drive from Bobby Thompson here. A lot of drama on that final end of the race there, but Bobby Thompson, and almost lights to flag P1 here. A little bit of trouble along the way, but he secures it. The ambassador of the series, Bobby Thompson, comes through to win race 1 of the night. Mikey Doble takes 2nd place, side by side with Deegan Fairclough, who battled valiantly in that race with many drivers, takes 3rd place. The Pro-Am category, it was going to be Ollie Peters at the top, but drama at the end has led James Clark through to finish 1st for the Pro-Am category. Aaron Thompson 2nd. And of the Am category, and a little bit of drama at the end there between the 2 drivers. David Whitehouse has come through to win the Am category and 12th overall, but an important position to keep an eye on is 15th place, which goes to Nick Clibbons, who was involved in the drama with Ollie Peters on the previous lap. He takes reverse grid pole despite that drama at the end there, Paul.
Indeed, and Peters, who finished P13, will be taking P3, so he'll be on the second row of the grid. Now, I think it may be some unfinished business between the two of them. To be fair, I don't think it was intentional, the contact, but they tried to make it essentially coming out of an apex where you can go too wide, but they were 3 wide at the time of the point of the apex, and something had to give, and it was the 2 drivers on the inside in the end who ended up making the contact, and Clibbons and Peters will be thinking back about that going into race number 2, and I think given their starting positions, they might want to think about settling it down, because there could be some major points up for grabs if they just keep it clean in the next one.
Absolutely agree. But we have the classified standings of the opening race of the night here. Top of the standings, that's our qualifying results, so we'll swap that to the race results. There we go, that looks a lot better. Bobby Thompson takes the top spot, like what he did last season, and Mikey Doble, our defending champion, technically, of the Monday Night Leagues of NXTGEN Racing, second place with Deegan Fairclough in 3rd position. Sam Smith takes 4th position with Pete Newman in 5th. Wayne Douglas 6th, followed by Lee Holmes. James Clark in 8th position, who was top of the Pro-Am category. Ben Bennyworth in 9th place with Aaron Thompson rounding off the top 10, 2nd in Pro-Am category. Jamie Dury, our league host, takes 11th from David Whitehouse, the Am category winner of this race. 12th position overall for him. Ollie Peters involved in an instant in the end there on the final lap. He takes 13th in the end with Jeff Perkis 14th. 15th is Nick Clibbons and the all-important reverse grid pole. So our front row for the next race will be Nick Clibbons and Jeff Perkis. 16th place is Lee Horn, followed by Craig Cockrell. Adam McNally in 18th place with Liam Silkstone in 19th place. Paul Scott takes 20th from John Burnham in 21st. 22nd, Lewis Kent. Nigel Stock in 23rd. Martin Smith will take 24th. Liam Tack 25th. And more than a lap down, or a lap or more down, from Adam Delmont, Glenn Humberston, Mark Oliver, Dustin Lamb, Steve Thompson, Simon Robson, and Tom Delaney. Well, what a race we had then, Paul. That's quite the introduction to the series for yourself. Quite an introduction to the season for everyone.
Oh, indeed, a fantastic one. I think now the really big question, the thing I'm going to be keeping my eyes on going into race 2, and really for those of you watching at home right now, I'd say watch out for Deegan Fairclough, because we saw how that difficult start saw him drop all the way down the order, and at one point almost outside the top 10. He made his way all the way back up into P3 and was nipping at the heels in the end of Mikey Doble, and that is the thing which I think is going to be keeping a lot of people on edge right now, because Fairclough will be starting what is correct me if I'm wrong here, P13, and he will be looking to come through the field like a rabid dog for positions, and a beef with the pace he's showing right now here at Silverstone. He's going to be the one to watch, but also to no discredit in the end with regards to taking a look at Clibbons. Unfortunate to have that incident with Peters on the final lap. I think Peters and Clibbons could be 2 very strong drivers also going into race number 2 here. And also Whitehouse, well, given the Am driver they're finishing P12, he's going to be starting quite far up, and indeed he will be putting a lot of distance between himself and his closest rival in class, and that's Paul Scott, who will be starting P20.
Yeah, absolutely. Lots to watch in this grid. And the biggest movers of the grid, biggest mover, should I say, of the grid was Liam Silkstone. Finished 19th place, gained 12 places to that 19th spot. So another one to look out for. But for the time being, this has been race 1, round 1 of the NXTGEN Racing MX-5 Cup. I've been Alex Everett and Paul Walsh. Don't go away, ladies and gentlemen. We're just going to go for a quick break while we get ready for race 2, and we'll be back with more Mazda action very, very soon. Don't go away.
when you're here, I can feel no doubts, 'cause you keep me where the stars are found. It doesn't really matter, 'cause you're here with me now. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter, 'cause you're here with me now. It doesn't really matter, 'cause I feel so free now. It doesn't really matter. Sometimes when you're here, I can feel no doubts, 'cause you keep me where the stars are found. It doesn't really matter, 'cause you're here with me now. It doesn't really matter, 'cause I feel so free now. It doesn't really matter.
Welcome back, everyone, to Silverstone for the NXTGEN Racing MX-5 Cup. This is round one of the championship on a 12-round adventure we're going on over the next couple of months, and we've got race 2 of the night coming up for you very, very shortly. Joining me alongside me is Paul Walsh. And Paul, what an opening race we had. In the next 40 seconds, how would you sum up that race?
Oh, in 40 seconds, opening race full of vibrant contact, brilliant back and forths up and down the field. In the end, a winner who broke away by simply being given the opportunity to not fall backwards into the hands of the drivers behind. But at one point, with a 12-way battle for P2, that was absolutely phenomenal. In the end, it did get a little bit scrappy, to be fair, on the last lap, but we didn't expect that from our drivers, as they're just going touch and feel at the moment in terms of getting used to one another out in the circuit. But I could expect with race number 2, particularly with the partial reverse grid, we're going to see plenty more racing action. I think that's the summary.
And that was 38 seconds. Well done, Paul, as we tease us up ready for the next race of the night. And we'll go through the grid very, very shortly. And in fact, I'm going to hand reading through the grid over to Paul for this second race of the night. So without further ado, here is the grid for race 2.
Alrighty then, ladies and gentlemen, well, as the grid begins to form up, we're just waiting to see our drivers take to the grid. It will be on that front row, David Whitehouse and Jamie Durian in the end, with Aaron Thompson and Ben Bennyworth alongside one another on the second row. Third row being James Clark and Lee Holmes. Row number 4, Wayne Douglas and Pete Newman. And then you're going to have Sam Smith and Deegan Fairclough on row number 5. Mikey Doble and Bobby Thompson on row number 6. Ollie Peters and Jeff Perkins on row number 7. Nick Clibbons, Lee Horn on row number 8. Craig Cockrell and Adam McNally on row number 9. And then our 10th row being made up of Liam Silverstone and Paul Scott. Then we've got John Burnham and Lewis Kent on the 11th row, Nigel Stock and Martin Spit on row number 12, Liam Tack and Adam Delmont taking up row number 13, Glenn Humberstone and Mark Oliver on row number 14, and then on our final row, Dustin Lamb from the United States and Simon Robson from the United Kingdom completing row number 15. And I believe we are getting ready for the countdown.
Absolutely we are. David Thompson on the front row, league host Jamie Dory alongside, lights are red and away we go, and it looks like a good start from the 27 car back there, but David Whitehouse straight across the grid, rather like what Michael Schumacher used to do back in the day, and into Copse Corner we go. It is a good start from David Thompson, but Aaron Thompson on the inside of Jamie Dory going through Copse, a little bit sideways coming out of the corner there, but into second place he goes. Down towards Maggotts Corner we go, not too many dramas so far on this opening sequence. Into Maggotts Corner we go, and it's real bunched up here in the mid pack all the way through the field. In fact, and there's a spin back there, and there's another spin further up. That's Wayne Douglas, and there's another spin further back. I couldn't quite see who it was, but the number 93 car is also sideways. That was Martin Smith, and down the order goes Wayne Douglas.
Indeed, and I think it was a case that a couple of drivers just simply being caught out with cold tyres earlier on. And I think Lewis Kent was one of those individuals involved, and Liam Taggart, what I'm hearing, was involved in a bit of an incident and may have been one of our spinners. But right now, David Whitehouse, well, after a decent start, it's the case that he is trying to hold on versus Pete Newman and Ben Bennyworth as they make their way out to the final pair of corners and to the end of lap number 1. So after one lap, it's David Whitehouse leading by the smallest of margins right now versus Pete Newman. Then we've got Lee Holmes, Ben Bennyworth, and Mikey Doble, James Clark, and Nick Clibbons as they're all changing place. I think we've got Aaron Thompson dropping down the order like a stone, and Zaga has gone very wrong with the start-finish line there. We've got cars going left, right and centre.
Oh, there's a big pile up at Copse, and it's a yellow flag. The host has thrown a yellow flag here as the track is blocked. There's a carnage at Copse Corner here. There's bodywork everywhere. There's cars upside down. It's quite the carnage here. This is not what we wanted to see early on in this race. A yellow flag is thrown to keep the drivers going in this race, allow drivers to catch back up, to clear themselves from the track as well. Quite a shame to see such an incident like that, and we are under full course caution now, which means the drivers will run slow, speed drop of about 80%, and they will form behind the safety car to do a couple of laps, while our virtual marshals, our heroes in orange, clear the track. But David Whitehouse at the top here. Pete Newman with a brilliant, brilliant opening lap. 6 places gained to second place as we catch up with the safety car right now. And while all this is going on, while we're waiting for things to get underway again, we will take a look at the replay of this incident that happened here. So just trying to find the best place to start looking. It seems to have started between Silverstone and Peters. So we'll take a look. Oh, no, actually, no, it started a little bit further up.
There. Well, it looks as though that incident didn't cause or trigger off, but it looks like I think that's Jamie Dory involved in a three-way tie, and then 2 other cars getting caught up. And, well, it looks like they tried to go... Was it 3 wide into turn 1?
It might well have been, yes. That's not the camera we want, but let's get another look at the view from Jamie Dory here.
So they're making their way down, so there was already contact on the left, the number 555 going out, and then Dory with the contact on the left-hand side there, and Delmont getting swept with the 2 cars making contact. Almost as if Dory got stuck alongside the MX-5 that was on his left-hand side there, and Aaron Thompson will just end up as a victim of it all.
We'll look from Aaron Thompson's view, because he was the one running slow here, couldn't seem to get out of the way, blinking his lights to let people know, but it just forms into the incident eventually. It's hard to pick out that one. It's definitely going to be one for the stewards later on. But yeah, it's such a shame that that had to happen when it had to happen. And there's a slight issue with the overlay there as we're trying to catch up with the live action. Drivers will be able to go to the pits and get some form of repairs. But how much their cars will be damaged and how much they'll be, will they be able to carry on, that's just another story, unfortunately.
Oh, it is indeed. And I think really there, looking back at it and playing it back in my head, I think we had 2 incidents occur, one after the other, where I think the 2 cars, well, one car ended up in the wall, and I think one car just ended up going slow down the start-finish straight, and we saw Jamie Dory having to swerve to avoid a slow car, and in that, I think it was a case that so much speed going through the driver's hoops what came up to that accident, they ended up forming into their own collision. I think it's going to be a very hard one for the stewards to unpick post-race right now, and I would hate to be them in terms of the fact they're going to have to pick apart 2 major incidents. And, well, where do you point the finger? It's not our job to, of course, but that's going to be their big question.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we're still running under caution here. David Whitehouse at the front, Pete Newman in second, and in third place it is Lee Holmes. So we're trying to get the overlay back working again. It just seems to be stuck in replay mode, which is rather frustrating. We'll get it back for you very, very shortly. I think there's one more lap till green. In fact, the light, I can't see the lights on the pace car, pace Porsche, leading us round the track.
Indeed, and right now David Whitehouse will need to nail this restart here, because he'll be thinking in his mind, and remember, David Whitehouse being the AM driver here, Pete Newman the pro behind him. If I was in Whitehouse's shoes, I'd look to push really hard on the opening restart lap, and then just naturally let the pros behind me come on through. I wouldn't want to fight them too hard, because he's got a sizable gap of 10 places to Paul Scott, his main rival. And as the safety car now begins to peel away here, Whitehouse will control us going racing once again as he makes his way out of the final major corner here. And you can see safety car into the pit, so Whitehouse is going to take us away again. And I believe we're just waiting to get to the line. And there he goes, he takes us racing. Racing is resuming. We're under green flags once again here, and Whitehouse getting a good start. Already Pete Newman and Lee Holmes closing up as we have got some passes happening further down the order. And you can see, in fact, in the battle for P6 there, I think that's Mikey Doble and James Clark coming together into turn 1 as they make their way through the corners. But right now, as they come charging down towards what is turn number 3, under braking Whitehouse. Well, he's defending here. Does he really need to defend versus Newman? That's the question. Well, Newman's going to cut back on the inside here through 3, and a very, very smooth move from what was Newman, and indeed Whitehouse now starting to drop down the order like a stone. But to be fair, we would expect this, and he doesn't need to fight for these. He needs to be thinking about the bigger picture, and I think he already is, as James Clark has lost a place to Bobby Thompson a bit further back. Yep, no problem at all. So as our drivers continue to go racing right now, we can see it's the case that as we continue to look around the circuit, we do seem to have these battles starting to build up, and with Adam Delmont as well in what is P9, just trying to hold off the fast-charging Craig Cockrell behind, and we ride on board with Cockrell here as he goes charging out to the final corner. And as we continue to ride on, but this is for you, ladies and gentlemen, the battle for what is P9, and as they come charging up into turn number 1 here, heavy on the brakes, so you see Cockrell there deciding to brake a lot early and trying to get a tight line, whereas it is the case that Delmont ahead of him going in very deep and making it work, and Delmont in fact nailing that corner perfectly, and as a result not feeling any additional pressure as they come rolling down into turn number 3 once again. But meanwhile, a bit further up the order, we can see that Bobby Thompson now continuing his charge and indeed trying to siphon his way through the order, and next target on this list is Nick Clibbons as he makes his way down the Wellington Straight. And as they come rip-roaring on down here, well, it does look as though a little bit further ahead we've got Mikey Doble here trying to look for the move on the outside of Bennyworth, as Bennyworth goes in deep here into turn number 4, and he's going to try and make Doble go all the way up onto the apex curve there at turn number 5, and as they come through the right-hander, it's Bennyworth who loses out there as Doble shows that he will find that space, and he is going to make that little MX-5 creep in and take another position as they go on to another lap here. And as they make their way on through, and look back to yourself, Alex, are you good to continue, or do we need to keep on going? Alrighty, no problem. So as our drivers continue to make their way through turn number 1 here, Mikey Doble right now holding position firm, as behind we do seem to have a situation right now with Doble making that move. We can see David Whitehouse holding on, but he's going to be on the outside into 2. It is a very compromised line here, as we can see all the pros clustering up behind, and as they make their way through the corner, Nick Clibbons trying to find a way around, but he's going to be made to go wide here through 3. And as they come charging down the Wellington Straight, and they make their way all the way down, going up through the gears, it's a situation where 2 by 2 they come, as they come rip-roaring on down towards where it's turn number 4 here. And it does look as though it's getting a little bit scrappy, as we can see it. Bobby Thompson now finding his way through this order, and he's now going to be looking for what is the pass here as he makes his way into turn number 5. And behind them, well, you've got David Whitehouse here, who's just falling down gradually, but trying not to do so too rapidly, as James Clark, our leader in the Pro-Am class right now, side by side with the leader in the AM class here, and the 2 of them going to war as they make their way onto another lap. They come through the right-hander. We've still got 6 minutes of racing to go, ladies and gentlemen. I'll try and keep you updated in terms of how much racing time we've got despite the graphical glitches. And as they make their way through turn number 1, it is that situation now where Alden Dumont will want to come on through as they make their way on. Sorry, come on. Great. Alrighty, and as our drivers continue to make their way on through, and I'm just hearing that my colleague is gradually coming back to terms, which is great news, of course. We can see it's now side by side between Clibbons and also what is Bennyworth here, and Clibbons, Bennyworth both in the same class. They're side by side in the run down Wellington Straight here, and it's going to be Bennyworth who defends the inside versus Clibbons on the outside. And as they come into the heavy braking zone, will we see Clibbons make his mark, or will it be Bennyworth who defends? Well, Clibbons tries to squeeze Bennyworth up onto the apex curb. He wants to give himself some space, and as they make their way into the right-hander, as we've got brake smoke off of David Whitehouse's car up front, we can see it's the case that Clibbons able to hang it round the outside to inside, and now as he makes his way through turn 6, I think the Briton has got the job done. The Simtech Racing Gold driver is up for position here, and it's not going to be done quite yet. It's going to take one more corner. As we see up ahead, meanwhile, Mikey Doble here in the scrap with what is Pete Newman as they come into turn 1. They go around with 5 minutes to go, and Doble, he's gained another place here, and he's chasing after Lee Holmes right now, and Doble has been flying, but he's got behind him, of course, the flyer of Bobby Thompson and also Pete Newman as they come down to the braking zone. Thompson's going for another move here as they make their way through turn number 3, and as they emerge right now further back, we are hearing that Bennyworth still holding on to the head of this pack in the battle for P5. As they make their way down the Wellington Straight here and side by side again, but this time its positions reversed with Bennyworth on the outside in the run down the Wellington Straight. Meanwhile, got Clibbons on the inside. Now, can Bennyworth do to Clibbons what Clibbons did to him last time? Well, Bennyworth's going to go for it, but he's gone very, very deep on the brakes as Clibbons, and Clibbons right now giving his rival a lot of space to play with here, and I think Clibbons, what he's trying to do is lull Bennyworth into going deep into the corner, and as they make their way onto the exit, you can see it's work. Clibbons getting a much better exit out of 5, and as they come through the right hander here, Clibbons is going to go all the way round. He's got the speed to do it, but is he going to have the bravery to try and hang around the outside into turn 1? As meanwhile our race leaders changing place, and Doble going for the move on the inside here into 1. They come on through the corner, and I think it is the case that Britain has got it done, as further back it is still Clibbons versus Bennyworth, but Bennyworth has lost another position here. We can see Adam Delmont, although it doesn't look like in the picture, Delmont is slightly ahead by a nose as they make their way through 2 and into 3, but he's gone very deep on the brakes, and Clibbons is trying to pull away as we can see that Bennyworth up on the apex as they make their way on through. Fantastic racing between these guys, wouldn't you say, Alex?
Absolutely. Apologies for the issues earlier on, ladies and gentlemen, but we are back now, as you can see. Looking at the front, Bobby Thompson has put it into the lead, and we've seen Lee Holmes gain 22 places in this race. A phenomenal race from him. All these drivers up here battling at the front in race 1, battling at the front in race 2 yet again. Through we go, through Woodcote, and we'll be starting another lap here, and a few more to go still. Plenty of action from these drivers. It's Bobby Thompson heading them as they come across the line. Mikey Doble, his rival in the Legends Cup Season 1 from a few seasons ago, is right there in second place. He's alongside Lee Holmes, and Pete Newman trying to come through onto the podium, which he missed out on in the first race, of course, and he was up there battling for quite some time. He's trying to sneak it up the inside of Mikey Doble here, coming out of Maggots here, and he's also got Lee Holmes alongside him, which is hampering his ability to get out of the corners as fast as possible, and it gets into a line between these drivers, or is it going to be side by side between Mikey Doble and Lee Holmes? Doble comes across to guard the inside into Brooklands, and that helps Pete Newman to get round the outside of Lee Holmes here, who has the inside for Lovefield now. Good opportunity here for Pete Newman to move into third place.
Indeed, it's a brilliant move here. We saw this earlier a little bit further down the order, and it does look as though that Newman right now throwing everything he's got at this to try and be on the podium, as we can see that Doble and Thompson have started to break away, but as they make their way on to another lap here, Holmes versus Newman, I think it's going to be the second part of our card for tonight as they make their way through turn number 1, and meanwhile our leaders right now, I think Doble's getting himself sized up for that potential move, so we are going to see 2 by 2 as they come down towards turns 2 and 3 here, and Doble taking the lead, and Thompson backing out here. I think Thompson's playing a bit of a savvy game as he goes for a sudden move to the inside here. I was going to say Thompson's playing the card game, the calm game I should say, as we see further back Newman going wide there. Now, was there contact between the two? It looked like Newman just simply got it wrong to break and open the steering wheel up as it's opened up to Delmont.
There was contact between him and Holmes. I think Holmes has dropped back to let by Pete Newman again, or has he? Maybe not. But down to 5th place goes Newman, and he's got to get through more cars to get back up to that top 3 spot. Mikey Doble and Bobby Thompson battling as they have been for the last few seasons in Next Gen Racing, at the top yet again. Lee Holmes right in the middle of this sandwich between Adam Delmont and Pete Newman. Adam Delmont has come out of nowhere, is into the top 3 here. On his inside is Lee Holmes. They come across the line. This will be the white flag being waved here at Silverstone for the final lap coming up. Into third place goes Adam Delmont with his nose ahead and a big run through Cobb's corner, but he runs wide. Oh, and there's a spin at the back. That's Nick Clibbons. Clibbons has spun off at Cobb's. And he'll drop down the order but keep going, but it carries on with the battling at the front here. Doble takes to the outside, to the inside goes Lee Holmes on Adam Delmont at Maggott's corner. And I think he might well have tied that up. Or is Adam Delmont coming back? It seems to be he is. Adam Delmont will have the inside for Brooklands, but then the outside for Luffield at the front here. This is the battle we'll focus on for the end of this race. Mikey Doble versus Bobby Thompson. Doble takes
Thompson going defensive. He's really holding it defensive on the inside there at turn number 4, and Delmont aim to do the same, but Delmont's not going to have that luxury as they come through the final corner here, and it does look as though Holmes is going to get a nose out, but it's going to be all about the pull out the final corner and who uses the width of the corner. That's meanwhile looking up to the front as Bobby Thompson makes his way on through. He's made it all the way, and he's going to take the checkered flag just by a small margin over Mikey Doble, ahead of Adam Delmont, who takes the final step of the podium. Lee Holmes P4, and it's going to be Pete Newman, James Clark taking the win in the Prime class, Ben Bennyworth, Craig Cockrell, Sam Smith, and our top 10 being completed by Paul Scott, who has taken the win in the AM class. And then outside our top 10, Adam McNally P11, Nick Clibbons P12, David Whitehouse P13, Nigel Stott P14, and Ollie Peters complete our top 15. Well, what a dramatic way to end what was a dramatic start to the race.
Absolutely, and a dramatic one for us as well in the broadcast here. Again, sorry for the technical glitches, ladies and gentlemen. These things do happen, unfortunately. But what brilliant racing. We saw drivers coming up from miles down in the pack. Lee Holmes, 20 places gained is just incredible. And, well, the usual show we see from Bobby Thompson and Mikey Doble. Adam Delmont just stretching it to the line in third place there. What a fantastic race we've seen yet again. And we've got another 25-minute race coming up very, very shortly. But for the meantime, here are the results of the second race of the night that allow you to read through, Paul, seeing as you had to commentate much of that race.
Unfortunately, technical issues have prevented me from seeing those results.
Oh, here we go. We'll sort that out after, but I'll read through the race 2 results here. It is Bobby Thompson taking another win here in the Next Gen Racing MX-5 Cup. 2 from 2 so far for him, but Mikey Doble in second place there. Adam Delmont of Excite iRacing is in third position, followed by Lee Holmes in the 88 Tech Racing Machine. Pete Newman battling in amongst the top 3, but he takes 5th in the end from James Clark, who takes the Pro-Am victory in this race, as he did in race 1. Ben Bennyworth in 7th, followed by Craig Cockrell in 8th. Sam Smith 9th, followed by Paul Scott. Adam McNally in 11th place, followed by Nick Clibbons. David Whitehouse from pole finishes 13th in the end. Nigel Stock in 14th with Ollie Peters in 15th. Martin Smith in 16th with John Burnham in 17th. Jamie Dory 18th. Glenn Humberston is in the next position of 19th. 20th goes to Liam Tack. 21st goes to Lee Horn with Wayne Douglas in 22nd. 23rd taken by Aaron Thompson. Jeff Perkins, who's involved in the incident at the beginning there, 24th for him. Mark Oliver, 25th. Liam Silkstone, 26th. 27th goes to Simon Robson. 28th to Dustin Lamb. Lewis Kent in 29th, and Deegan Fairclough in 30th position. A bad run for him with the incident that happened at the beginning of the race. So I do believe Simon Robson finished that race, so it will be a full reverse grid of the top 27 drivers from this race. If I'm wrong, I apologise, but we'll find out shortly. But for now, it is going to be right back from us. We're going to head for a quick break while we sort out some technical issues, but we get ready ultimately for race 3 of the night, which is coming up very soon. It is a 25-minute feature race here at Silverstone National coming up next. I've been Alex Everett and Paul Walsh alongside me. This is Next Gen Racing MX-5 Cup. Race 3 coming up shortly. Don't go away. Welcome back, everyone, to Silverstone National in Northamptonshire. This is the NXTGEN Racing MX-5 Cup. Sunset here in Northampton. Rather better weather in this sim than it is right here in real life in Northampton. But we've got race 3 coming up for you right now. It's a 25-minute feature race. And here is the format for the series. There are 2 15-minute races to precede race 3, but this third race will be a 25-minute race. 3 classes on offer: Pro, Pro-Am and the Am class. And we have 30 plus drivers to look at in this race. So Paul, what are you expecting from this race? A full reverse grid?
Well, it's going to be a major change for World Drivers, and given it's the first full reverse grid of the season as well, I expect this one to have quite the ups and downs for a good number of drivers. We're going to have some very fast drivers coming through, none more so, of course, Bobby Thompson and also Mikey Doble. But then again, we'll also have some drivers who are a little bit slower in pace. They will be starting at the front, so of course they finish towards the back. But also, there was the major incident in race number 2, which means a good number of drivers will be out of position. There's going to be a lot of unpredictability in this one, and I wouldn't be surprised if we do see quite a bit of door-to-door contact, and plus it's 25 minutes, which means those arms and legs are going to be tiring towards the end.
Absolutely. But without further ado, here is the grid for this next race of the night. On the front row we have Dustin Lamb, and alongside him is Simon Robson. Liam Silverstone in 3rd place with Mark Oliver in 4th position. 5th position to Jeff Perkis and Aaron Thompson in 6th. Wayne Douglas in 7th. Lee Horn is 8th with Liam Tack in 9th. Glenn Humston in 10th. Jamie Durian 11th with John Burnham in 12th. Martin Smith will line up 13th with Ollie Peters 14th. Nigel Stock 15th. David Whitehouse in 16th. Nick Clibbons will line up 17th with Adam McNally in 18th. Paul Scott 20th with Sam Smith 20th. 21st to Craig Cockrell and Ben Bennyworth in 22nd. James Clark is 23rd with Pete Newman in 24th. Lee Holmes is 25th. Adam Delmont 26th. 27th Michael Doble. Bobby Thompson 28th. And Lewis Kent and Deegan Fairclough in 29th and 30th. But we are about to get underway for this third race of the night. The 25-minute feature race is starting very, very soon. And away we go. And there's a couple of drivers missing from the grid as we start this race, but away goes Liam Silverstone at the front here as we head towards Copse Corner, and he has got Mark Oliver alongside him, but he turns to the corner and he makes it through into the top spot very early on here with Jeff Perkis with a very good run coming out of Copse. 3 wide already coming out of Copse Corner between Lee Horn, Mark Oliver and Aaron Thompson, and there is a crash further back. It is Liam Tack. He is spun coming out of Copse Corner, and we'll get a replay of that very shortly as things calm down round here. But through Maggotts Corner we go. Lots of close packed action in the mid-pack here, and a lot of our big-name drivers coming through in the middle here. Bobby Thompson's already up 6 places. Oh,
goodness me! That's a major incident. That's Adam Delmont and James Clark involved in that, and those two did come to blows in race number 2. And Delmont, in the end, well, I think it may have been the case that they're all trying to thread their way through like a needle and thread the needle through the gap, and they just all came together. And indeed, the contact between the two of them there, and in fact, they weren't cramped. I think both of them just didn't give one another enough space on a straight that wide.
Exactly that, I think. But at the end of lap 1, Liam Silverstone of the Pro-Am category leads the way from Jeff Perkis in the Subaru replica livery back there, and 2 next-gen drivers together. That's Jamie Dury and Lee Horn, and they have got Ollie Peters, who lit up race 1 earlier on in the night, trying to split through the middle of them as one becomes a little unsettled coming out of the corner. I think that was number 13 of Jamie Dury, and that allows Lee Horn through into 4th place.
Lee Horn here is going to box in, essentially Ollie Peters, they come on through, and you can see Peters not happy with the fact that he's been boxed in on that apex, and he lost a huge amount of momentum, and it has bought Dory a lot of space, as now Peters got to find a way on through, and as he makes his way up through the gears here, I think it's going to be the situation as they come roaring down. You can see Whitehouse behind as well, and look at the rear of that group there. It's also the case you've got McNally and Smith trying to get involved, and they're trying to thread the needle through this pack as well. Everybody really getting feisty at the start of this 25-minute race, and you would think, oh goodness me, and Whitehouse there in contact with what was Peters, and in the end, well, Whitehouse has lost out massively. Did he really need to gamble that early on? Well, that's up to you guys and girls in the audience, but it's the case that Whitehouse now will feel that pain as he drops a long way down. We've even got, I think that's Sam Smith, who spun out on the run into turn number 6, and Smith trying to make his way into the pits. Now, what's happened to Smith? Oh, the car's just completely gone on the, well, it looks like the rear unsettled. He tried to power through it, and in the end, found the wall instead, and has now had to rally across his way into the pits.
In the pits he goes indeed, and it's a sad end to the night for Sam Smith. Meanwhile, at the front, Jamie Dory getting stuck in. He's alongside Jeff Purkis. These two race together so often in NXTGEN Racing's Race Room League as well in the touring cars, and they're head-to-head again here for the top 3 spots. Liam Silkstone still leads at the front, followed by Aaron Thompson. Meanwhile, further down, let's take a look at our big hitters, and they are Bobby Thompson and the like, Mikey Doble. I can't actually find them in the stands. Help me out here, Paul. Where's Bobby Thompson in the standings?
Bobby Thompson in the standings. Well, I believe he did not actually manage to make it to the grid. So as a result, I think Bobby Thompson...
He's in the pits. He's in the pits.
Oh.
Something happened to him earlier on in the race. He is no longer in this race. He's retired somehow. We'll try and find out as time goes by. But the other big hitter, our defending champion, Mikey Doble, up 15 places so far to 12th overall. And he's following Ben Bennyworth and John Burnham as they come into Cops Corner. Ben Bennyworth has been real impressive tonight. He's been towards the front in all of these races so far, as he's making a move for 10th place here, Paul.
He is, and Bennyworth really shown that you don't need to have the outright pace in order to have a good race. He's just been simply putting that car in good attacking positions and making it as wide as possible. He's needed to go on the defensive. And as we look up towards Jamie Dory right now, side by side with our leader Aaron Thompson, Silkstone's lost out, and they're 3 wide behind here as they all follow Silkstone down towards turn number 4. And it looks like Adam McNally at the head of this pack as we see the pro driver coming past the Pro-Ams as they make their way into turn number 5, and Dory going very deep into 4, I should say. But now as he comes into turn number 5 here, Dory really trying to put that pressure on. Aaron Thompson will not be curtailed here, as further back we can see Lee Horn right in the midst of the pack, and as they all come rip-roared out to turn 5 and into 6, it's the case now Lee Horn has got the aggressive pack of drivers nipping at his heels here, and as they come through to complete another lap, Clibbons, who's made a lot of gains here, and Clibbons definitely going for gold in the Simtech Racing Gold Machine as he makes his way into turn 1 once again after what was a difficult ending to the race number 2, and he's right now looking for that move on Purkis here, but I think it's going to be one of the situations where Purkis has got himself very well placed to go defence here through 2 and into 3. Into the braking zone they come for effectively the hairpin, and as they make the way, and he's going to try and go around the outside as Clibbons, but can he do it? Has he got the ability to do it? It looks like he has. We've got a car spun there, and that's Dustin Lamb who's taking us for a brief tour, but meanwhile we look back out towards the front, and Adam Manati right now will chase as we see that Dory's going to try and go around the outside of Thompson here, and well, to be fair, Thompson, does he have to defend this? No, but he wants to, and you can understand why, because he won't want Silkstone or any of the other drivers within his class coming on through, as we see Thompson cutting off the nose of Dory there, and as they make their way up into turn 5 once again, meanwhile Silkstone's going to be passed around the outside here, but McNally, but Silkstone keeping it in there, and as they make their way out 5 and into 6, they come through to complete another lap right now. Definitely a case that our Pro-Am drivers getting their elbows out versus the pros and showing they're not to be just simply passed.
Absolutely, and I think you hit some nail on the head there, that Aaron Thompson is looking to keep Jamie Dory behind him as he does so at Cops Corner, because it separates him from his Pro-Am category rivals. But at this point, they're not hugely aware of who's in their category. So right now, every driver is just thinking, well, I'm going to have to get as many positions as I can get to get as many points as I can get at this point in the championship. Round 1. So next week, going into Catalonia, drivers will have a little bit more awareness of who's in their categories. But for now, as far as they're concerned, it's all for all right now.
Oh, indeed, and it is shown right now as they literally all snake their way down the Wellington Straight and into turn number 4, and it's Adam McNally, whilst we're talking about that, where we saw McNally really gaining on Dory, and Dory having the mother of all runs down into turn number 3, but went very high on the sausage curb at 2, and as a result got unsettled. But now as they make their way out of 5 once again, Dory, I think with that momentum, he's actually finding that versus Silkstone here, it's not working out, and whilst he made that early charge, he's now got his teammate Lee Horn all over the back of him once again. The 2 NXTGEN drivers seemingly inseparable, attached from nose to tail, and as they make their way into another lap right now with 7 minutes of this 25-minute race complete, you can see behind them Nick Clibbons being quite patient, and this is not what we've typically seen from Clibbons over the opening 2 races, but now Clibbons playing the long game, and Pete Newman also doing the same here. I think they're expected as going to be quite a few fisticuffs between the guys up front as Clibbons goes a bit defensive there into turn 3, but definitely a different approach to the racing now from the pro drivers further back in this pack. It's almost as if they're waiting for the sparks to fly.
Absolutely, and one of them, I think, will be waiting for the sparks to fly here as Pete Newman, very, very wise character is Pete Newman, sitting in 7th here, 17 places gained. He's ahead of a few of it, who we consider right now his rivals, including Mikey, Doble, Ben Bennyworth and Lee Holmes. A few positions up the road from them as he's looking ahead. First is in his sights, and all he has to do is pick one at a time, pick his moments to get by them. Oh, and there's a car losing connection ahead. That was Jamie Dory. But losing connection has actually favoured him as it's got him alongside Liam Silverstone here. But the internet connection, it is perilous in sim racing. It's probably the sim racing equivalent, as I've mentioned many times, to an engine blowing up probably in real life. It is what these sim racers have to deal with, is connection issues. And it seems Jamie Dory has sorted it out by now as he almost blocks off his teammate there. Lee Horn have to go on the grass to evade him there, coming out of Cobb's corner. Oh, and we look back here, Pete Newman going around the outside of Nick Clibbons here. I've seen Pete Newman all night. He's just picking off those little moves. Where the track is becoming open ahead of him, he's just picking off those little gaps. He's very, very good at finding them. As we look towards the front, Adam McNally is alongside Aaron Thompson as we head down to Brooklands, Paul.
And I think that Nally's going to have the move here as Thompson has gone very wide. Now Thompson, of course, will be trying to cut back here for the inside into turn 5. And you can see he's going for it here, but having to put 2 balls up on the grass there and almost turn this into a rallying event as he makes his way through turn number 5. But to be fair, this means a lot to Thompson. You can see it, but because he's had that poor run through turn 5, it's going to be side by side here as they come through 6 and onto another lap. Meanwhile, Silverstone behind at this point, I think, will be salivating at the prospect here of being able to come back into the fight for the lead as they come across that timeline once again to go on to another lap. Now Thompson does retake the lead here. He really does find his way past McNally. So Thompson really showing his credentials in terms of perhaps not the fastest driver out there, but one of the better defenders as they make their way down to 2 and 3. And we are starting to see as well that things are opening up in the run into 2, where a lot of drivers are trying to take to that grass on the right hand side with a will to widen the entrance into the apex, but it looks as though there McNally too heavy on the brakes, and Dory's just come through out of nowhere to take that P2. But now McNally's going to have a lot of pace here in the run down the Wellington straight. And behind, Silverstone versus Newman once again, and Newman, he's up into P5 while this is all going on. Lee Horn looking for the move on Clibbons back in P6, but you can see that Thompson continuing to hold that lead. And to be fair, Thompson right now playing this to perfection. Every time a driver looks at a move on him, he just simply backs them up into the next drive round as Newman takes the place off of Silverstone here with a very smart pass into turn number 5. And now Newman on a charge. He's only got 3 more cars in his sights to take that lead, and the next one in his sights will be Jamie Dory. Now what can Newman do at this point? Well, we've seen so far versus Silverstone versus Clibbons, he's played the game of waiting for turns 4 and 5. Now he's got to do it again here, but now it's one of those situations whereby essentially, oh goodness me, he's been turned by Clibbons.
Oh, and contact with Jeff Perkins
goodness
as well. Perkins had nowhere to go and Pete Newman was trying to keep it in a straight line. Big instant coming out of Copster, and that's race over for Perkins and Newman. I was literally just thinking this is the chance that Newman is going to try and go for the win in the race here. It was looking so good for him. But contact between him, and I can't quite work out who it was. We'll have to go to a replay. But while all this action is continuing to kick off, it's 3 wide into Brooklands. Adam McNally in the middle, Aaron Thompson on the left, Dory on the outside. Through they go, and Adam McNally got a little bit out of shape as we came through the corner then. But they continue in a straight line. Let's see if we can head back to find out what actually happened to Pete Newman.
Oh, goodness me, before we do that, McNally and Thompson with contact, and McNally getting unsettled on the apex there of turn 5 as he tried to make the exit. He sent Thompson to the gravel, and Thompson dropping all the way down to P9 right now. And well, he's going to have Bennyworth coming on through as well, and Bennyworth will now move up into P9 as meanwhile Lee Horn and Jamie Dory are now looking for that move on the lead as they make their way through. We'll take it. Well, this is, I believe, a replay of what happened only moments ago. And well, no, my correction here is I think I'll let you bring this one, Alex. I think we're trying to take a look back at what's happened.
Well, from a bird's eye view, let's take a look at what actually happened to Pete Newman. We're approaching Cobb's corner now. Try and resume the action very, very quickly. Into Cobb's corner we go. Big run from Pete Newman there. And he had to stamp on the brakes, and it was contact from the car behind, the 194 car of Liam Silverstone. And that was it. That was it. And thankfully he only took out 2 cars, or granted, none would have been better, but still quite a sad end to Pete Newman's race, and what a good night he's had. Meanwhile, Jamie Dory has broken clear of this pack behind. He's got himself into the lead and he's broken clear. Look who's involved in the middle. Oh, Adam McNally peels off to the pits. Something's happened to McNally. Is it a drive-through penalty? Too many incidents? Not too sure, but he's going to plummet down the order here. What was looking like a good end to this race for Adam McNally has gone away.
I think Manali might be looking at that with the contact of Aaron Thompson. As you can see, Thompson actually in the background of the picture. They're starting to regain places once again. He's already up into P6 as we see a Mazda going wide there. And as they all come charged out, we have got what it looks as though there we have got one of our back markers. Well, that was the driver only just recently had that incident. And well, they're all trying to filter their way through turn number 3. It is getting very claustrophobic here as they're now reaching the halfway point of the race.
It was Pete Newman coming out of the pits there. Coming out of the pits and thinking, well, I'm just going to get stuck in here. But he did eventually back off and let the leading pack through. But at the front here, it is Jamie Dory clearing away from Nick Clibbons. A pro category win for Jamie Dory. The league host will be greatly celebrated indeed. We've only had one winner tonight, and that's been Bobby Thompson, who's running down in 22nd at the moment. I think he's still running in this race. Oh, as we have an incident for Pete Newman again. Seems... something happened to him. I think it is just our timing data just playing up on us a little bit there. But we'll resume at the front here. Jamie Dory with a bit of a gap to the cars behind. Meanwhile, in other categories, David Whitehouse leads the AM category. 9th place overall, first in category. But he's not comfortable just yet, as only 8/10 down the road. Behind him is Paul Scott, 2nd place of category.
And to be fair, though, with regards to Whitehouse versus Scott, one can imagine at this point that Whitehouse, we've come from a very long way back. Well, Scott and Whitehouse have come from quite far back, but right now, Scott really putting that pressure onto Whitehouse. And in terms of their lap times recently, just taking a look back through their previous laps, the two of them practically matched on lap time. They're inseparable right now, and I do think this is going to come down to the last couple of laps between these two as we look back up towards the front, and it does look as though Jamie Dory being reeled back in now that more of the pros come through. There's Mikey Doble already up into P3 with still 11 minutes of racing to go. I think Doble could be looking to make this one a win.
Well, you say that, and I was literally just thinking it took Mikey Doble a very long time to take a win in Season 1 of the Next Gen Legends. It took him a while to take a win in Season 2 of the Next Gen Legends. I think it took about 5 rounds. He's a bit like, he's the Andy Priol of the field as we see a lead swap between Clibbons and Dory, but Doble is the Andy Priol of the field where he doesn't need wins, but he's just so good at getting through the pack and picking up big points each round.
And looking there, another winner. Talking about winners, I think that's Bobby Thompson also in the mix there, albeit he's I believe he's a lap down, or that looks to be the Bobby Thompson machine trying to squeeze its way on through. And well, I think he's itching for a fight here, but he's got to remember those blue flags will be waving for him as all of our leaders try and cut around him here. And what do you do in this situation with your Thompson? Well, forget about that for a moment, because Jamie Dory having to defend versus Clibbons again, and these two really going to the toe as Mikey Doble comes through there, with Dory really forcing the issue to Clibbons, and Clibbons losing out massively as Ollie Peters has come out of nowhere and he's going round the outside now for a potential P3. But I think this is going to be very brave stuff with the Crest Autosport driver, and they make their way into turn number 6 and go on to another lap here. And I think for Peters and Clibbons right now, they need to be looking ahead of them rather than side by side, because they could be losing out on the battle for the lead here. We've got a lot of distance to go, but still neither one of them wants to give way to the other, and Peters there having to hold the outside line. He's going to make it work though as they go side by side and long round down towards turn number 3. At the head of the pack though, Jamie Dory holding on as Bennyworth goes up to P7 by looks of things, and as they come on through, it's Bennyworth battling with Lee Horn here under braking into turn 3 they go. Horn's going to try and carry on the outside, and Bennyworth on that tighter line. He's going to have the initial track position, but I think Lee Horn's got this one done. He just about shuts the door and gets ahead onto the straight.
Absolutely, and now it's a battle for the lead between Mikey Doble and Jamie Dory. Mikey Doble making his move for the lead. 26 places gained in this race. It's been a phenomenal race for him, and into the lead he goes. But it's not going to be over yet, as Jamie Dory will fight back with a little undercut. Trying the outside at left field. Will take a wider line and a later apex coming out of left field to try and get a good exit from this corner. But Mikey Doble, vastly experienced in real life, vastly experienced in iRacing, vastly experienced in Next Gen Racing, knows the cunning of these cars and these races as he stretches away towards Copse Corner. It's a good run of slipstream here from Jamie Dory, but does not try and move on the inside. Will try and get a good run through Copse, but Mikey Doble is just so quick through these corners. Don't write off Ollie Peters as well. He's done well to come through the pack. 11 places gained. You could say he's had a relatively bad night actually. A lot of places lost in races 1 and 2 incidents, and a little bit of contact on the rear of Jamie Dory there. He backs off a little bit. Nothing too much to worry about by there. Oh, as Lee Horn is dropping down the order, he is in the pits for some reason or another, and he leaves the pits now. Not entirely sure what's happened to him.
Well, as you were talking about the leaders, Lee, I saw Lee Horn peel in. I think there might have been an issue with the car, and that's what I've had to look at. But look at Aaron Thompson there at the back of this pack. Aaron Thompson, who dropped down to P10. He's now back up into P4 here. And despite the fact he doesn't need to fight these guys, the Triple B Racing driver here has got the bit between his teeth and wants this win. As we see Jamie Durian and Aaron Thompson in as well. Goodness me, we've got a lot of pit stops coming up here. Is it drivers with penalties or just damage to the car? Because we're seeing pit stops left, right, and centre.
I'm not too sure. I'm wondering if there's a little misalignment from us, and I'm wondering if you have to take a mandatory pit stop in these races. I'm not too sure, because this seems a little unconventional at the moment. Jamie Dory and Aaron Thompson in the pits. Now, we'll stay with Jamie Dory. Let's just see what actually is going to what's actually happening to his car in the pits here. Sitting in his pit stall right now. Is it a stop-and-go penalty, or is it a splash and dash? Not entirely sure. As he leaves the pits now, what about Aaron Thompson? What is he going to do as Jamie Dory leaves the pits? Aaron Thompson a little bit behind Jamie Dory, leaves the pits. But at the front, let's just find out what happens, because it might well be... Oh, I'm not too sure. I'm not going to speculate anything. If there's anything I'm unsure of, I'm really unsure of it. It's just to put it quite simply. But Mikey Doble leads this race at the moment. Ollie Peters in second position and Nick Clibbons in third place. What a night Nick Clibbons has had as well.
Indeed, and Nick Clibbons really making that car work hard right now, as we do see another driver pulling into the pits. That is Lee Holmes, but meanwhile focusing on Clibbons in P3. Well, what have we got to say about him? It has been a night where he has had to bounce back from adversity in each of the two races so far, and in this one as well, he's really having to make that vehicle work as hard as possibly can, and it's proven in the fact that he's right on the heels of Peters right now, and with Mikey Doble just up the road from the pair of them as they come roaring up towards turn 3. I think what's going to be happening at this point, I think Mikey Doble was just going to look to try and continue to make that break here, as we see Ollie Peters getting it a little bit sideways there on the exit turn 3, a bit too much body roll, and as a result that's actually caused him to fall backwards to Clibbons. Now what do you do if you're Peters at this point? Do you defend this? Do you go for a rather lackadaisical, just let the driver behind him through and try to come back at him later on? Well, I think in the end both drivers not really wanting to contest this too hard. I think they both see the bigger picture ahead of them, and that is the win, and it's only 7 tenths away from them at the moment.
Yeah, I think the more intelligent driver at this point would be thinking, right, well, let's work together, or if you're going to go for a move, I'll let it go. But Nick Clibbons slips into the pits, and I've got a feeling there's a mandatory pit stop in this race because of the vast amount of drivers pitting here. But as it stands, Mikey Doble and Ollie Peters haven't pitted, and we can actually see the amount of pit stops drivers have had. You can see the drivers with no stops at the moment. Doble, Peters, Bennyworth, Scott and Clark. A lot of drivers have taken a stop, and the one at the top who has taken a stop at the moment is James Clark. No, it's not. It's Jamie Dory at the moment. He's first of the drivers who have pitted. So, presuming Mikey Doble and Ollie Peters will have to pit, it should all line up again, and it will all erupt for the final few laps of the race. We've got the final 4.5 minutes of this race to go now, and it's getting close between Ollie Peters and Mikey Doble. Peters, no slouch in these cars. I got a feeling he might be promoted to the pro category after tonight. What do you reckon, Paul?
I suspect so. I think we're going to see quite a few realignments of class going into round number 2, because we've definitely seen some very strong drivers coming on through, as we see Mikey Doble and Peters into the pits. And now this is where the field is going to turn upside down in terms of, as we also see Bennyworth in the rear of the picture coming in. So who is going to emerge as our leader when the pit window is all said and done? And this being a new innovation which has caught us by surprise with regards to this series compared to the previous runs of the Legends, seeing this mandatory pit stop by the looks of things going into what is the MX-5s, but indeed a little bit of innovation never hurt anybody, and it's mixing things up as we do see Dory right now coming out of the final corners here. All over the back of him, however, is, well, that looks to be Holmes there as they come across that line. In fact, that's Clark who's leading right now, I have to say. But, well, has Clark made a pit stop yet?
No, he hasn't. He hasn't made the stop yet. Clark hasn't. I think he's the only one who hasn't. Mikey Doble leaves the pits, though. And there is Jamie Dory in the distance, and he's alongside Lee Holmes. This has been brilliant from Mikey Doble. He's overcut the lot of them, and out he goes, out in front in net first, I would say. And Lee Holmes on the inside of Jamie Dory. They're battling here, and this is going to slow him down from the already quick Mikey Doble, who's just going to lead away here. He's only 2.8 seconds behind James Clark, who hasn't pitted yet. So this is very much in Mikey Doble's hands with only 3 minutes to go.
Indeed, and really Doble right now, I think he's timed it right, and the challenge for him is just bringing that car home. Meanwhile, for Jamie Dory at this point, it's about bringing home that P2, and he has got the absolute colossal pressure of Holmes and Clibbons behind him, and to be fair, behind them as well, it's not too far back before you have Aaron Thompson and also Peters battling, but focusing on the head of this pack, it is one of those situations where I think you're going to be seeing Holmes just trying now to get that move done on the inside with 2.5 minutes to go here, and as the sun begins to come down, it's going to be Holmes who gets ahead for the time being, but we know just because you're ahead coming out of turn 1 doesn't mean you're going to be ahead in the braking zone down to turn number 3, and again it is seen here as we see Jamie Dory trying to go from the inside to outside into 3, under braking, he'll ride that sausage curve there. He does love to put 2 wheels up there, and it seems to just put him a little bit more on edge and gives him a bit of a thrill by looks of things in terms of trying to send the car around the outside, but this time it hasn't quite worked out. Well, not yet, but he's going to tuck it back in the slipstream down the Wellington straight here. Oh, goodness me, we've got a car on its side. Is that Liam Silverstone?
I think it was. We're just going to see if we can get a quick replay of that. Ooh, if I can scroll to it, it is Silverstone, McNally and Whitehouse. So here we go, this is the view from Silverstone going into Maggot's corner. That's McNally ahead of him. Oh, a nudge up the rear, and then Constantina's up. McNally is put sideways by Silverstone, and they all just run into each other from there. Oh, and very good avoidance from the cars coming in after the incident. But that is a very sad end to McNally's race, it seems. James Clark is in the pits, which promotes Mikey Doble to the top spot now with just over 1 minute to go. I think this will be the penultimate lap of the race. But Mikey Doble has had a brilliant series of results tonight. I think it might well be 3 top 5s he's had tonight. And he's well on his way to a win in the early part of the season, which, I'll be honest, is rare for Mikey Doble. He tends to wait till later in the season to hit his marks in terms of race wins. But right off the bat, very well done here for Mikey Doble.
Oh, indeed, and it looks as though the results are coming early, and as a result, I think Doble at this point trying to show to everyone it's not just about his late game that works out in terms of later on in the season, but one other driver I've been keeping my eyes on in terms of the timing screens has got to be not just Thompson, but also Peters. The two of them, P5, P6, the 2 Pro-Ams have literally been going at it non-stop here. As we can see, it's Thompson leading right now as they come around to go on to the final lap here, and well, can Thompson hold on? Because if he can, this will be a colossal drive from Thompson. As we see Bennyworth there, well, it seems to be taking a look back, and what has happened to Bennyworth? Well, that car does not look happy by looks of things. He's just had to pull off the circuit.
Yeah, something has happened to him earlier on in the lap. We'll get a quick look at it before we... no, we're not able to find it, unfortunately. So we'll resume to the front of the pack. And there is a comment on YouTube, and I'm going to bring it up now because Mikey Doble has got the car ahead. There's the 555 machine ahead of Jeff Perkis. And Alistair White is asked on YouTube, hang on, is that an MX-555?
Oh, goodness me, that's brilliant.
I think that might take pun of the night ahead of yours from earlier, Paul. But Mikey Doble is coming to the end of this race. A brilliant race indeed from him. A brilliant night from him.
It's been a fantastic drive from him as he comes out to turn number 5 and he sees turn 6 and he makes the apex of the sweeping right-hander. He'll think to himself, he's got the job done. It's a win in round number 1. It's going to be in the feature race. Mikey Doble takes the win overall in race number 3 in emphatic fashion. 2.5 seconds ahead of Lee Holmes, Jamie Durian P3, Nick Clibbons P4. Aaron Thompson in the end holds on to P5 with perhaps one of the drives of the day, you could argue, to take the win in the Pro-Am class. And in the end, it will be Paul Scott who comes across the line, P9 overall, to take the win in the AM class. A brilliant drive from Paul Scott, and in the end, our highest placed, and by a considerable margin, David Whitehouse being P2 in that class, down in P18 when all is said and done. And I think Whitehouse may have had a little bit of a moment not to want to remember in this race, as all of our drivers now come to the end of their racing for tonight.
Well, got one more question for you, Paul, and we should have done this a little earlier, but I'm going to leave you to decide this all season. But who for you is your driver of the day?
Oh goodness, that's a real pinch of a question. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to say, for the purposes of round number 1, it would have to be Ollie Peters. Great battling through and through from Peters. May not have got the best of results, but definitely the Crest Autosport driver, time and time again, showing that you don't have to have the greatest pace to have good fun and get good results over 3 races.
I agree. I agree. Waving the flag for the Blues he is. Well done, Ollie. Very good racing from Ollie Peters tonight. A little bit of bad luck here and there, but has really fought back in all of the races. A lot of drivers have, credit to them. There's a lot of honourable mentions that have go in there, such as Aaron Thompson and Mikey Doble and Lee Holmes. As well, just to name a few. There's plenty of drivers really waving the flag for themselves out there. But yeah, Ollie Peters, our driver of the day tonight, as voted for by Paul Walsh. It's not biased. It's not biased at all. It is Paul's vote. But
I'll take the briefcase of money after this one, if that's okay.
Well, it won't be much in there. But anyway, we'll move on to the results of this third race of the night to conclude our night for the MX-5 Cup Round 1 here at Silverstone. It is Mikey Doble taking race 3 here. Bobby Thompson was the winner of races 1 and 2, but Mikey Doble is the new winner of tonight. Lee Holmes takes second position, just behind, 2.5 seconds behind Mikey Doble in the end. Jamie Dory takes third position from Nick Clibbons in fourth, Aaron Thompson in fifth. Ollie Peters will take sixth with Lee Horn in seventh, third in the Pro-Am category. Deegan Fairclough in eighth position with Paul Scott in ninth, and rounding off the top 10 is Simon Robson. Adam Delmont in 11th, with James Clark taking 12th. John Burnham in 13th, followed by Mark Oliver and Nigel Stock in 15th. Sam Smith takes 16th from Pete Newman in 17th. Drama earlier on in the race when it was looking very good for him. David Whitehouse second in the AM category, but 18th overall. 18th for him. Ben Bennyworth in 19th. Last of the drivers on the lead lap in 19th. Jeff Perkins in 20th, with 21st going to Craig Cockrell, Liam Tack in 22nd, 23rd to Bobby Thompson, who won the first two races, I will remind you, 24th to Martin Smith, Adam McNally in 25th, Liam Silkstone 26th, Glenn Humberson 27th, Dustin Lamb 28th, Lewis Kent 29th, and Wayne Douglas in 30th position. And that has been 3 races of the NXTGEN Racing MX-5 Cup. We have had over an hour of competitive racing, and I'm not entirely sure if we're going to have any interviews, but I might see if I can drag some. In fact, I can't drag any drivers in here with my privileges on Discord. I don't know if you can, Paul, but maybe we can get a interview with our driver of the day and maybe our race winner. See if we can drag some people in here.
Definitely can drag them in, but I better just give them a quick ask whether they are available in case they're midway through flow talking with some of the other drivers. So I'll just drop Ollie Peters a quick message.
And yep, that would be good to speak to these drivers after this race, collect their thoughts. It was some very, very close racing out there, so it might be a few hot heads out there, might be a few out of breath out there, but what great racing we've seen. And while we're waiting for a few interviews to come through, this is the schedule we're undergoing for the next couple of months, seeing us into 2020, towards the spring of next year. Today we're here at Silverstone. Next week we're off to the Catalonia circuit. Then it's the Red Bull Ring for round 3 in 2 weeks from today. Then we have got round 4 at the circuit Gilles Villeneuve, followed by Daytona Road Course round 5. Round 6 will be the Bathurst circuit. Round 7 at Monza. Snetterton is round 8, subject to change apparently, with other tracks on the horizon on iRacing.
Just let you know, Ollie Peters is good to go. Sorry to come across you.
That's okay. I'll just finish off here. Round 9 at Zandvoort with round 10 at Interlagos. Round 11 will be on the streets of Long Beach, and the final round, a 2-hour endurance at the Nürburgring. But we are going to speak to Ollie Peters for a quick interview once we can get him into the commentary booth. We'll speak to him about his driver of the day performance.
I think we're going to have to go to him in the interview waiting room. I can't quite pull him in, so let's hop over there and we'll grab him for an interview.
We'll do that. There we go. There we go. We are. Once I unmute myself. Yeah, if we can unmute ourselves, Paul. We are speaking to Ollie Peters very, very shortly, our driver of the day in today's round. And once we've got a few issues out the way, we'll be able to speak to him. We'll get a few pictures going on in the background here. But Ollie Peters, our driver of the day today, as voted for by Paul Walsh. Tell us, how was your night in your eyes?
Oh, it was amazing. I had a tough break in the first race, I think. Got taken out on the final lap. Was fighting for like top 5. I think it was just a case of a racing incident, really. Going 3 wide into the second corner, there's not much you can do. Second race, I mean, it was a bit of a disaster, but what can I do? Got caught up in a crash that wasn't my fault. But I had a good comeback after that. Like, got a few places. I was lapping pretty fast, I think. And then the last race was spectacular. Really happy to get 6th in the last race.
Yeah, it was a thrilling race in the final one there. And you chose to pit a little bit later. Do you think this came off better for you?
It definitely would have if I had got in my pit box at the right spot. I took it a bit deep. I was just trying to save as much time as I could in the pits because we were all trying to decide what to do. I knew we'd have to pit, like the chatter at the start of the race. I just knew we were going to have to pit, and I was like, I'm going to stick it out with Mikey at the front. And I think if I'd have nailed my pit stop, I definitely would have been fighting for a podium.
Yeah, absolutely. So Catalonia is next. Relatively new to iRacing. I mean, of the recent tracks such as the Hungaroring, Knock Hill next week or tomorrow potentially. How are you feeling going into next week's track in Barcelona?
I don't have a huge amount of experience on Barcelona. I've raced there a few times, but I'm confident that I could be fast there. I like the Mazda. I really enjoy racing it, and I'll turn up.
That's good to hear. And lastly, before you go, Ollie, who do you want to give a shout out to? Sponsors? Anyone watching?
Crest Autosport, really. Sort of getting me involved in these leagues. NXTGEN for running them. All that good stuff.
Absolutely, great stuff. Well, thank you, Ollie Peters. You are tonight's driver of the day. Go and enjoy yourself, and we'll see you next time for round 2 at Catalonia.
Thank you very much.
And we've just spoken to Ollie Peters, and we'll see if we can get an interview with Mikey Doble. It's a bit frantic in the comms box. We've got doors to go through to speak to people, to get people in here, just to put it in the slightest sense of realism. But let's see if we can get ourselves an interview with Mikey Doble, our race 3 winner. See if he can give us a little bit of intel into his masterstroke behind the pit stop that's brought him to leading that race towards the end there. So we are bringing in Mikey Doble now for a quick interview in the comms box to see us out for the night. Mikey Doble, a race 3 winner. Tell us, how was that race from your eyes?
Well, it was plenty to think about because we started the race expecting to go to the end without pitting, and I think we was all chatting halfway through thinking we're not going to make this, and everyone was kind of trying to be inventive with their own strategies, one hand on the mouse, setting up your pit strategy whilst trying to navigate your way through the carnage was one way of putting it. But no, it was a good race. Love the new cars. Can't wait to race some more.
Mikey, I do have to ask, with regards to these cars for the MX-5s, obviously in the Legends, you are our reigning champion from the Legends. What's the difference between the two? What makes the MX-5 that enjoyable to drive?
Well, I mean, firstly, I thought the Legends were great. I mean, we had a lot of fun racing them, but with the MX-5s, I think the Legends were very snatchy. I mean, the limit was, yeah, it was a much finer line. You was kind of walking a tightrope all the time, whereas the Mazdas are far more forgiving. You know, that they slide a lot easier. They're easier to control, which is good for the racing, because I just think it means that you should have cleaner racing. Obviously, reverse grids can put a bit of a stop to that, but in general, I think the first race was pretty brilliant. And also, they take contacts much better. So if you do misjudge an overtake, or you hit someone in the wrong area on the car, you're not going to get much damage if at all. So they're pretty robust in that sense. So yeah, you can race pretty close without worrying about putting yourself out of the race through some minor contact like you can do in some other cars.
Ian, with regards to the open races in particular, we saw your rivalry, I should say, with Bobby Thompson immediately reignited. 2 races where you finished just behind him in races 1 and 2. Have to ask, was it a case of just simply sizing up in preparation for the big conundrum of race number 3, or was it one of those ones straight out of the box, you're eager for that win? Because we, well, as Alex was informing me, indeed looking back, it seems though you really came alive in the second half of the season's past, but this time you come out of the box firing on all cylinders.
I've joked with Bob throughout the night. I said statistically during the Legends Championships I don't need to win every race because you always DNF at least one of them. So and it proved right tonight. So I was just sitting back in race 3, almost half throttle everywhere, just watching all the cars go off, thinking I'm going to get taken out here if I'm too aggressive. So, and with the slipstream, I thought if I can put some clean laps together halfway through the race, I'll catch up to the front pack and just pick them off one at a time. It's a 25-minute race, but no, I mean, I always enjoy racing, Bob. It's a good rivalry. It's been going on for a while now throughout the NXTGEN series, and it looks to be no less intense in the Mazdas.
I've got one pressing question, Mike, and it might be too early to ask, and you might give me a no comment kind of answer. But when it comes to your real life ventures, what's on the horizon? What can we expect from Mikey Doble Racing in the next couple of months, in the next year or so?
Well, I'm looking to repeat to an extent what I've done this year and go out and challenge in the Ginetta GT5 challenge again next year. Nothing's been made official yet, but that is, I'm sort of 99% there that's what I'm going to be racing. So I think having finished 4th in my rookie year this year, which is as good if not better than what I was expecting or hoping for at the beginning of the year, I think that sets me up next year to really go out there with a goal no less than to try and win the championship, to be honest. So it's not going to be easy, and only one person gets to come out on top, but that's where I've got to be aiming, really. So yeah, so for 2022, if a better season in GT5 to progress from where I was this year.
That's good to know, very good to know. And lastly, before we let you go, Mikey, who do you want to give a shout out to? Any sponsors, anybody watching?
Oh God, I don't even know if anyone's left watching me. I'm not sure if I've got any friends left, to be honest. But but no, I'm sure my mum and dad and brother are watching downstairs, and my nan watching at home. She's already texted me, but she's probably switched off by now. So yeah, I'll make sure I'll get more people watching next week. But no, it's great fun and great commentary as usual, guys.
No worries. Thank you very much, Mikey. Well, we'll see you next time at the Circuit de Catalunya. Thank you very much for giving us great entertainment as usual.
Cheers, guys. See you next week.
See you around.
All the best.
What do you reckon, Paul? One more interview before we head off air, and I'm going to nominate. Well, I can see Jamie Dory's a little busy in there, but how about we? Oh, never mind. He's just disappeared. I was going to see if we could call in Bobby Thompson, but he's just disappeared off Discord, so we might well call it an end here. So, yeah, Paul, give us a bit of a roundup of the evening there.
Well, I definitely think Silverstone's produced some fantastic racing for our season opener, and if anything goes to show that with the MX-5s, as we're hearing there from Mikey Doble, the car, it's quite a forgiving car, and we saw just how forgiving it was with plenty of battles lap after lap. On top of that as well, it is the case, it does seem as though within our pros in particular, all of them are firing on all cylinders straight out the box this time, and it is the case. I think we're going to have some fantastic fights going to Catalonia in a week's time, but let's not count out the fact that a number of our Pro-Ams and also our AMs demonstrated great pace. Now, will they be reclassified into different classes, into higher classes, going into the race at Catalonia? We'll have to wait and see. But if anything's for certain right now is that the results in each race are going to be uncertain. This is going to be unpredictable. And, well, Catalonia is going to be a whole different challenge from the high downforce, high-speed nature of Silverstone in a week's time. I think that just about sums it up. But brilliant racing all the way through the field. And in the end, we did see multiple winners in each class, which I think is a great landmark at the start of the series.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you've hit the nail on the head there with regards to categories, people moving around. It could be very different going into next week. That's one of the surprises we're going to find going into next week. But it will sort of stabilise. It will get a bit more consistent as the season goes on. Remember, this is a brand new season, so a lot of drivers, we're all a bit unaware of who's going to come through and who's going to break through and be quicker than everyone else. But regardless of that, what a great night's racing we have witnessed. 30 car grid, and going into Catalonia next week, quite a technical track for MX-5s anyway, quite a long track for MX-5s actually. It's going to be rather interesting. So as we tail off the end of the stream here, just a reminder that next week we are off to the Circuit de Catalunya, and in 2 weeks it is the Red Bull Ring. We have been at Silverstone today, and remember, you can tune into these races every Monday from Crest Autosport TV on YouTube or Crest Autosport TV on Twitch, but also the NXTGEN Racing Facebook page. And for any of the 3 channels, if you are watching from any 3 of them, please give them a like, follow, share, and or subscribe to help out the channels, to help out the organisations, to therefore help out the leagues. It's very much appreciated, and it means you can stay involved in the action here, catching it every Monday as it happens live. But for now, I've been Alex Everett, and alongside me, Paul Walsh. This has been the Next Gen Racing MX-5 Cup Round 1 at Silverstone. We'll see you next time at Catalonia. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next time.